I beg you all to stay glued to this raven-wise, Gibson-shredding napalm poet before you, alone and unshackled, as the desperate cries of the soon-forgotten echo freely in my lair, directing your gaze to their silly and sad, legless and dying heartbeats. Beware, I told all, yet beware clearly, I told no one. Canned slabs of jaundiced gorilla pelts fill the plates of those fools and clowns and nabobs. Oh, how they once begged to attend my perfect banquet in the nude. Now they just beg for the keys to my gold.
Charlie Sheen was born Carlos Erwin Estevez on September 3rd, 1965, in New York City. He was the youngest son of 4, with 2 older brothers, Emilio and Ramon, and a younger sister, Renee. His parents are Martin Sheen and Janet Templeton, and have been married for over 60 years. Janet was best known for being the wife/mother to the famous Sheen/Estevez brood. His mother, Janet, was the result of a non-consensual encounter. She was born in Dayton, Ohio, and left unwanted by her mother, so she spent the majority of her childhood living with her aunts in the countryside. His father, Martin, was also born in Dayton, Ohio.
Did your dad think that your being an actor was a good thing?
No, not at all. No, he was... No, my dad was a factory worker. Sir. I adored him. He never made more than $140 a year. He was the best man I ever knew. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I adored him. He didn't have any knowledge about what I wanted to do. You know, he didn't really know what it was, and he got very angry about it and tried to get me to go to college because I was born with a slight deformity in one of my arms, and he thought of me as a cripple, you know. So he felt that among all these children, I should have an education so I wouldn't have to work for a living. So he saved up this money, put a little aside every week for me to go to college, and then it came time for me to go to college, and I didn't want to go. I wanted to go to New York to be an actor. And it really hurt him. And in the end, I was so determined to do it, and when I proved that I was going to go anyway, then he gave me his blessing.
Martin met Janet, who was attending the New School for Social Research. After seeing each other for a short time, they married December 23rd, 1961. It became clear why they had chosen to tie the knot so quickly when their first son, Emilio, was born May 12th, 1962. Wasting no time, the next was Ramon, born August 1963. Martin found he rarely got a call back when he used his birth name, so he started using the stage name Sheen. He also had an extremely long rap sheet, which made him difficult to insure. True to the spirit of the 60s, he was arrested over 60 times for protesting and acts of civil disobedience. His big break came in 1964, when he co-starred in the Broadway production of The Subject Was Roses, where he played a serviceman returning home from World War II, portraying the troubles that followed and plagued him, followed up by the film version in 1968 as the same role. This performance enabled Martin to begin securing more guest TV spots and other small roles throughout the 60s and 70s. It wasn't long before Martin moved his young family from the Upper West Side in New York to Malibu, California, when he was cast in the black comedy war film Catch-22, released in 1970. The cast included accomplished actors like Anthony Perkins, known for his part in the Psycho series, legacy actor Orson Welles, and as a defining role for both Bob Newhart and Angelina Jolie's father, John Voight. This was also musician Art Garfunkel's acting debut. It's easy to assume that because Martin was discouraged in his pursuit of acting, and with his newfound fame, he was very enthusiastic and encouraging for his children to do the same. However, this newfound success and recognition also came as a detriment to Martin's mental health and well-being, and his alcoholism and anger was spinning out of control. The eldest son Emilio quotes in an autobiography co-written by he and Martin, "Watching my father drink was like watching weather patterns blow across the backyard. Alcohol first made him sentimental, then it made him self-pitying, and then he'd get angry, self-righteous and arrogant." The crime drama Badlands, released in 1973, was Charlie's first uncredited part, starring his father Martin as 25-year-old Kit and Sissy Spacek as 15-year-old Holly, portraying the secret romance between the two and the drama that ensues as a result. The boys under the lamppost outside of Holly's home were Charlie and his brother Emilio. Released in 1974, at the age of 9, Charlie had his first credited part in the made-for-TV movie, The Execution of Private Slovik, a story about the only American soldier to be executed for desertion since the American Civil War, starring his father Martin, alongside Gary Busey and Ned Beatty. You can just imagine what these early experiences on set of these movies, which were intended for adults, mind you, were like for young Charlie. For example, it was around 11 years of age that he claims to have smoked his first joint, which I suppose wasn't uncommon in the industry. During that time, Drew Barrymore was already smoking cigarettes at 9, drinking at 10, smoking pot at 12, and snorting cocaine by 13. Being far away from home, witnessing the struggle and afflictions of his father and the other co-stars, eager to please Martin as the youngest son, and surely forming the interest to follow in his footsteps. Released in 1979, and now 13 years old, Charlie was gleefully clinging to his father's coattails once again in the epic psychological war drama Apocalypse Now, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Coppola was still celebrating his success of The Godfather when he took a big leap from street war into Vietnam War with Apocalypse Now, which is an adaptation of Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, and was to be originally titled The Psychedelic Soldier. In Martin taking this role, it allowed Charlie to have access to other more successful actors such as Marlon Brando, Robert Duvall, and Dennis Hopper. And like most jobs, you learn the majority by doing, and spending time with those more experienced than yourself. This was also an early role for Lawrence Fishburne, who became a lifelong friend of Emilio's. There were also a lot of delays and other obstructions throughout the course of filming, which gave the cast and crew a lot of downtime to spend together and interact, which would have also had a great impact on Charlie. Whether it was a good contribution to Charlie's upbringing and career or not, who knows. Marlon Brando, the most well-known of them all at the time, especially for his part as Vito Corleone in The Godfather, spent most of his downtime with the Sheen household, and the entire family surely gained a lot of insight and learned much about the industry as it were at the time. Where Charlie had taken a great interest in the special effects department, often returning to their lodgings with some outrageous fake injury, his oldest brother Emilio spent most of his time mingling with the other extras, emulating his father, while also attempting to keep his father's identity under the radar. This is where he had tried alcohol for the first time, and began drinking regularly with the lesser-known cast and crew. Drugs and alcohol were a very common theme among many in the industry during this era, and even more so when filming in exotic locations outside of the United States. The access to narcotics, cheap booze, and desperate women looking to shack up with an American, as well as the near immunity to legalities versus back home, was often the frontrunner of these types of ventures. A good example is the opening scene, which was filmed on Martin's 36th birthday, and he was very heavily intoxicated. The mirror he punched and cut his hand with was not part of the scene. He was meant to just punch the air. Although Coppola thought he should stop and get medical attention, Martin continued the scene and improvised. He smeared the blood all over himself and writhed around as if in some psychotic trance. He later referred to that moment as an exorcism of his alcoholism, and the breakdown he was filmed to be having was very real. It managed to perfectly parallel the character for the scene. Later on, after the rest of the family had returned home so the kids could attend school, his drinking and drug use became more frequent and excessive, and it wasn't long before Martin suffered a near-fatal heart attack.
I really had a very close call, and I realized it's nothing that I can put into words. I just knew that if I wanted to live, it was my choice. If I wanted to die, that was my choice too. There wasn't even any fear. The fear only came when I realized later how close I came to the end. That's when I get scared.
I remember the phone ringing, and my secretary said, Marty's had a heart attack, and Francis doesn't want to admit it.
Dave Salvin let Melissa tell Barry Hirsch that Marty had a heart attack. What the fuck is that? That gossip can finish me off, because if UA hears that it's 8 weeks, UA with a $27 million negative is going to force me to complete it with what I've got. And I don't have the movie yet.
Right.
All right, now you understand exactly. Yes. If Marty dies, I want to hear that everything's okay until I say Marty is dead. You got it?
Right.
If it's not done, man, ship the whole office out of here. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay, I'm really scared, guys. The first time I've been scared on this movie.
Young Charlie was especially affected by this. being that he had been spending a lot of time on and off set with his father, observing the ups and downs, and at his age, formulating his view on the world and what it means to be a man. His father's real personality and certain traits of the characters he was playing were often one and the same, which would further skew Charlie's perception of real life. His experiences throughout Apocalypse Now left a permanent impression on Charlie, and he admits to having a TV in his home with the movie on an infinite loop. During a radio interview, he mentions, "I'm not just my dad, I'm putting up the river to kill another part of me, which is Kurt's. I'm every character in between, save for the little weirdo with his gut strapped in, begging for water. That's not me, but there are parts of me that are Dennis Hopper." Other than when traveling and working on movies with his father, Martin spent very little quality time with Charlie and his siblings. He was fresh in the face of fame, a raging alcoholic, and their home life was anything but ordinary. Charlie attended Santa Monica High School, along with other soon-to-be famous actors Robert Downey Jr., Rob Lowe, and Sean Penn. He was the shortstop for their baseball team, and was eventually offered a baseball scholarship to the University of Kansas. Charlie's dream was to be the shortstop for the Cincinnati Reds. A few weeks before graduation, however, Charlie was expelled for bad attendance, poor grades, as well as an arrest for credit card fraud. But this wasn't his first brush with the law. Charlie was given a BMW for his 16th birthday, and shortly after, he was busted for marijuana and weapons. When I was 16, me and a friend smoked a little pot, and we fell asleep in the car with the radio on. I woke up to a badge tapping on the window. I was carrying this knife in an ankle holster, and I had this beautiful ivory inlaid billy club. The judge was a friend of my mom's, and nothing ever came of it, Charlie recalled. Regarding the credit card scheme, I had about a 4-day crime spree before I got arrested, he said. We got credit card receipts from the trash of the Beverly Hills Hotel. Then we'd order things like televisions, Walkmans, jewelry, watches. I'm standing in front of my art class, senior year, when 2 cops walked in. They said, "You're under arrest for credit card forgery." I was 17. His mother paid for the items and resolved the matter legally, but this time there were real consequences, and his scholarship was revoked along with his big league dreams. Luckily, acting was still an option for him, and in his spare time, he had already been making amateur films with his brother Emilio, along with Rob and Chad Lowe, and Sean and Chris Penn. He decided to adopt his father's stage name and go with the English of Carlos, which is Charles, or Charlie.
I figured that with how Pop has established Sheen in this business, I should probably carry it on after his history, you know.
He began taking on several small roles, but this didn't stop him from getting into trouble. On December 12, 1984, at 19 years old, Charlie's first child, Cassandra Jade Estevez, was born. Her mother was Charlie's high school sweetheart, Paula Profit, whom he had begun seeing in his final year. But as his career began to take off, his 3-year-long relationship with Paula suffered and deteriorated, ending in 1986. This marked the beginning of an explosive and scandalous saga of relationships, which seemed to be tainted by destiny, due to Charlie's learned perception, twisted by Hollywood, and the lack of any real parental guidance and consequences. He would later regale his first sexual encounter, which was at the age of 15, while on the road with his father. He stole Martin's credit card and hired a streetwalker named Candy. He said over all of the experience, "I remember having the greatest night of my life." After noticing the charges, his father's main concern was that he confused the interaction with real love. It may have already been too late, and it could be said at that moment his fate was sealed. Along with his first child, Charlie's career was also born in 1984, when he starred alongside Patrick Swayze in the Cold War teen drama Red Dawn, written and directed by John Milius. Swayze was also just beginning to find his footing in the industry after the success of The Outsiders, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, with appearances by Charlie's brother Emilio and their high school friend Rob Lowe, as well as Tom Cruise and Matt Dillon, in what could be credited as their early breakthrough roles. Red Dawn, described as an anti-war Lord of the Flies, was also a major box office success. Among the cast was other Outsiders star C. Thomas Howell, and the lesser-known actress Jennifer Grey, in her breakthrough role prior to her lead performance opposite Swayze in Dirty Dancing. Released that same year, his father Martin had a lead role in Stephen King's sci-fi horror Firestarter. He was on screen with the likes of Drew Barrymore, Heather Locklear, and George C. Scott, bringing Charlie into the mix with more Hollywood talent. And I'm sure he made contact with the younger and arguably more well-known and experienced Hollywood child, Drew. Charlie also went on to work with Locklear on several occasions. Charlie appeared in several films between 1984 and 1986, including a cameo appearance in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, starring Alan Ruck, Jennifer Grey, and Matthew Broderick, and The Boys Next Door, starring he and Maxwell Caulfield. But his most notable film during this time was Lucas, Lucas was a romantic comedy drama starring himself, Corey Haim, Cary Green, and debut performances by Courtney Thorne-Smith and Winona Ryder. He briefly dated Winona during the filming of Lucas, and he apparently helped her decide on her stage name while the two were listening to The Doors, Riders of the Storm. He said, "You know, I'm thinking Winona Ryder sounds cool," and she was like, "Yeah." Lucas was the stage for another alleged situationship between the then 19-year-old Charlie and an even younger cast member than the 15-year-old Winona, but we'll get to that later. In an interview around that time, he expressed jealousy of the Brat Pack, a popular group of teen actors for which his brother was a part of, and he said he would eclipse all of them in their careers, and in some ways he certainly did. His first majorly successful role was in Oliver Stone's Vietnam War drama Platoon in 1986, where he starred alongside William Dafoe, Keith David, John C. McGinley, and Kevin Dillon, joined by a young Forrest Whitaker. This was also one of Johnny Depp's early roles, following his appearance in the first Nightmare on Elm Street film in 1984. Around the same time, Charlie wrote and directed his own short comedy film called RPG, which starred young Johnny Depp.
Hey, K-Boy, you want to pinch that growth so we can get a move on, please?
He had a starring role in the 1986 film The Wraith. He played the Wraith himself, a teen spirit that would manifest in a car and torment local motorheads. This role had him acting side by side with Randy Quaid and Nick Cassavetes in one of his early acting roles. In 1987, Charlie was reunited with Alan Ruck and Cary Green in the film Three for the Road. Shortly after, Charlie joined previous co-star Randy Quaid in the film No Man's Land. After a couple more smaller roles, he starred alongside his father in the financial drama Wall Street, released in 1987, and also directed by Oliver Stone, following the release of Platoon, starring Charlie, his father Martin, and Michael Douglas. This project was almost completely derailed because Charlie was high and or drunk most of the time during filming, and acted very unprofessional towards the female cast and crew. For example, actress Sean Young said Charlie had stuck a piece of tape on her back with the C word written on it, to have it ripped off and crumpled by Michael Douglas. Stone was noted to say he would never work with Charlie again. His next formidable role was in Young Guns, released in 1988, a biographical western retelling the adventures of Billy the Kid. Charlie was given a supporting role alongside brother Emilio, Kiefer Sutherland, Lou Diamond Phillips, and other Brat Pack alumni Dermot Mulroney. Mulroney said of that time, "We were all drinking voraciously in a way that I don't think young actors do today. I think that took on some legendary status." Charlie then starred in a couple of baseball-themed movies, 8 Men Out and Major League, in the late 80s. He later admitted that he used anabolic steroids during the filming of Major League. For all of his recreational dabbling, this was the only time Charlie used steroids throughout his life. Charlie met Kelly Preston in 1987, right after her divorce from Kevin Gage, and around the time she was still living with George Clooney. He proposed to her with a 2.5-carat pink diamond ring in April 1989. "We were together for a year, and he wasn't drinking, he wasn't doing drugs, and there's a beautiful person in there. He really is a great man," Preston told People magazine. It's unclear who was doing who the favor, or if it was truly just the brotherly thing to do, but Charlie began appearing in films written and directed by his brother Emilio, who had taken more of an interest on that side of film rather than acting, although he did give himself parts in many of his own movies. His first film was Wisdom in 1986, a modern-day Robin Hood-esque adventure and crime film, co-starring his fiancée at the time, Demi Moore. Then, Men at Work in 1990, co-starring Charlie and Emilio as a pair of garbage men who dream of owning their own surf shop. Emilio had never committed any real crimes, with fear of any consequence anyways, or worked any real job a single day in his life, so it was no wonder that neither movie received much attention. They clearly lacked any real soul or substance. In 1989, he took part in 2 films directed by Adam Rifkin, Never on a Tuesday and Tale of Two Sisters. Tale of Two Sisters was not only narrated by Charlie, but also featured poems written by Charlie. It was about 2 sisters who hadn't seen each other for 5 years, catching up on their current lives and recounting childhood experiences. Never on a Tuesday, on the other hand, was about a handful of men trying to convert a lesbian, which his brother Emilio and Francis Ford Coppola's nephew, Nicolas Cage, also took part in. This was also one of the most memorable voices in Hollywood, Gilbert Gottfried's early appearances.
Well, I think this is your lucky day. Here, help me with this, would you, son? Hi. Okay, let me introduce myself, boys and girls. My name is Lucky Larry Lupin.
Around this same time, Rifkin was working with Adam Sandler on his debut film, Going Overboard, as co-writer with Sandler and co-producer. The film chronicled a struggling stand-up comedian working on a cruise ship. Although it was an overall failure, Sandler became more successful after Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison, and Going Overboard was re-released in 1996. Years later, Rifkin did the illustrations for a poetry book that was written and self-published by Charlie in 1999. I managed to find and have read through a copy of it myself, and to be honest, he's really not a bad poet at all. The common theme to many of the pieces being the struggle with addiction and inner demons. Keeping up with the kids, so to speak, the military film Cadence, released in January 1990, was directed by Martin Sheen, starring Charlie, Martin, Brother Ramon, and Larry Fishburne. Similar to Emilio's directorial efforts, it was not well received, critically or financially. It was reported in January of 1990 that Charlie had accidentally shot his fiancée Kelly in the arm. This caused a media frenzy, but it was later disclosed that the actress had accidentally shot herself. When she lifted my pants off the scale in the bathroom, the tiny revolver I used to carry, it fell out of the back jeans pocket and hit the floor and shot a bullet between her legs. So she got hit with shrapnel from the toilet bowl, Charlie explained.
That's such a lie.
He shot you, right?
He didn't. No, it was an accident. He put put it in his pocket and it fell out and it went off. Complete accident.
The story is right. It was a complete accident.
Complete accident, yeah.
Wow.
So long ago. Bye, guys.
Regardless of how the accident occurred, having a loaded weapon laying around so carelessly was obviously concerning. The relationship began unraveling after that point, and they ultimately chose to separate. Charlie went on to date adult film actress Ginger Lynn Allen, off and on for a handful of years. She had appeared in Young Guns 2 with Emilio and the original starring cast from the first film. They had met in passing and ended up at a strip club with some of the other cast members, including Christian Slater and Kiefer Sutherland. She noted in an interview that she went back to Charlie's room that night. It was about a month after he had started spending time with Ginger that Kelly and Charlie broke off the engagement, and he and Ginger were well on their way to a drug-fueled fun time. They sold the ring and split the profits, and Kelly was soon married to actor and the now prominent Scientologist member John Travolta, whom she had met on the set of The Experts in 1989. In regards to their partying, Ginger had said, "I was right there with him. It was almost like he was the male version of me and I was the female version of him." Charlie wrote her dozens of heartfelt love letters, and eventually the couple entered rehab together. Although Charlie's relationship history overall had proven to be mostly violent and tumultuous, Ginger had nothing but good things to say about her time spent with Charlie. She has said that she got a different Charlie than everyone else, and that he never raised his voice and was never violent towards her, likely because the two partied so well together. Their relationship did take a sour turn, however, due to Charlie's promiscuity and wandering eyes. Charlie then co-starred in the 1990 buddy cop action film The Rookie, directed by and starring the legendary Clint Eastwood. His career was consistently on the rise to success, but his personal life was being driven into the ground. On August 3rd, 1990, on his father Martin's 50th birthday, his family staged an intervention. I thought I was going to his birthday party. I'd been up all night, and I thought I could come in with a shave, open up the gifts and the cake, and get out of there in a couple of hours. Suddenly, I saw my 9th grade history teacher, my yoga teacher from years ago, and my publicist. Rob Lowe was there, and some good family friends. I realized this was not a birthday party. There were no cakes or presents in sight. He completed 30 days in rehab and vowed to stay sober for a full 365. Although he did keep his promise, he celebrated his year sober by going right back to his same old habits. Hanging on to his sanity by the skin of his teeth, Charlie soon veered himself into the world of comedy, and helped usher in the parody film subgenre with the movie Hot Shots in 1991. Primarily a parody of Top Gun, with other scenes spoofing other popular films such as Rocky, Dances with Wolves, Superman, and Gone with the Wind. This would be where Charlie first worked with John Cryer, who later became his longtime co-star for 2.5 Men, but we'll get to that later. Charlie also had a cameo in National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1 in 1993, starring his brother Emilio and Samuel L. Jackson, with appearances by Tim Curry, John Lovitz, Whoopi Goldberg, Dennis Leary, Bruce Willis, and William Shatner. This one was a parody of Lethal Weapon, Die Hard, Silence of the Lambs, Wayne's World, and more. These early comedy ventures, however, were still not enough for him to fully break away from the war, crime, and action-themed films he was known for. It's actually unclear whether it was even Charlie's own choice to explore the comedy genre, or if he was deliberately looking to try and outdo his older brother Emilio in his achievements. Emilio, having been one of the coveted Brat Pack, now working in comedy films, and Charlie having said he had intended to overshadow them all, This could explain the wide variety of different roles he took prior to his home and situation comedy. While on a break from Ginger, Charlie started seeing swimsuit and Victoria's Secret model Stephanie Seymour in 1992. All the while, she was also dating Guns N' Roses frontman Axl Rose. The two became engaged in February of 1993, but obviously between the excessive drug and alcohol use amongst them all, and the infidelity, this was not a good fit, and the two officially separated 3 weeks later. Charlie had already long since moved on by that point, leaving the two to settle in the dust of the drama that he had helped create. Released in November 1993, Charlie appeared in Disney's action-adventure The Three Musketeers, playing one of the main three characters, Aramis, the other Musketeers Athos and Porthos being played by Kiefer Sutherland and Oliver Platt, respectively. Supporting roles were filled by Tim Curry and Chris O'Donnell, and the film received good reviews and was a #1 in the box office opening weekend. Released in March of 1994, Charlie starred in and served as an executive producer for the action comedy, once again written and directed by Adam Rifkin, called The Chase. This part did award him more comedy-type roles, but he was still cast in a handful of psychological thrillers up until the late 90s, including Bad Day on the Block and Shadow Conspiracy, where he then began making appearances in movies as a character in himself, or simply just a cameo, and otherwise made comedy his mainstay. He reprised his role as Wild Thing in Major League 2, released March of 1994. He shared the screen with Sopranos star James Gandolfini, and soon to be most well known as that arsehole Shooter McGavin, played by Christopher McDonald in Terminal Velocity, released in September of 1994. Though the film debuted at #2 in the box office, it received mostly negative reviews. Regardless, Charlie received a spot on the Hollywood Walk of Fame on September 23, 1994, at 7021 Hollywood Boulevard. In December of 1994, 29-year-old Charlie and 18-year-old Soleil Moon Frye began seeing each other casually. Frye was known for her role as Punky Brewster in the mid-80s. In her documentary-type film, Kid 90, that Frye released in March of 2021, she had dug out and read her old diary and recounted that on December 18, 1994, Charlie was her first consensual encounter.
Hello? Soleil, are you there? You're not there. It's Charles calling.
December 18th, 1994. I lost my virginity. He was my first. Who would have known? It's been the most strange and incredible day ever. I don't truly know how to explain my feelings. He's somebody I've had a crush on for years. He's a person that intrigues me and excites me. We smoke a cigarette. He whispers softly as he simply asks what my fantasies are.
Hey, Soleil, it's Charles calling. It is Wednesday night at about 11 o'clock, and so we gotta talk to you.
Charlie nailed down first wife, supermodel Donna Peel, on September 3, 1995, a mere 6 weeks after meeting on the set of a cigarette commercial in New York in July 1995. In an interview, he said about Donna, "She's an angel sent from heaven to take me through the rest of my journey." At the time, Sheen was involved in the court proceedings of the escort agency operated by 90s television personality Heidi Fleiss. He was a star witness in the trial of the Hollywood Madame, where he admitted to having spent over $50,000 on her services and that he preferred the cheerleader type. He was granted limited immunity from prosecution for solicitation because of his testimony. While taking the stand, Charlie did not mention any other names in regard to the Hollywood executives that were in business with Fleiss. This may be part of what saved his career in Hollywood, regardless of his antics, after being the only high-profile witness in the case and keeping everyone else safe from public and legal persecution. Unfortunately, this clearly created tension, and Sheen and Peel separated in 1996, after roughly 6 months of marriage. Charlie filed for divorce on November 19, 1996, and reported to news sources that the marriage was suffocating and they had to come up for air. Still actively working, Charlie took on a couple of different than usual roles in 1996. He voiced the character Charlie Barkin in the children's film All Dogs Go to Heaven 2, made an appearance on the 90s hit sitcom Friends, and played astronomer Zane, who discovered aliens in the sci-fi film The Arrival. Being his first experience in front of a live studio audience, while filming his guest appearance on Friends, Charlie was extremely nervous, and brother Emilio had to calm him down to get through the takes. Charlie's internal tension was clearly beginning to hit its own limit, and on December 20th, 1996, Charlie was taken into custody and charged with the assault of then-girlfriend, adult film star Brittany Ashland. He had allegedly grabbed her by the hair and slammed her onto the marble kitchen floor, knocking her unconscious and splitting her lip. She received 7 stitches, which supported her claims. Charlie alleged that she was coming at him with a cocktail fork, and that he was trying to contain her. The suit also alleged that he'd forced her to strip off and dispose of her bloodied clothing, and that he threatened to kill her if she told anybody about the assault. On February 6, 1997, he faced the related charges including assault, battery, negligence, false imprisonment, and emotional distress. Police also investigated and filed additional charges on February 20, 1997, for misdemeanor battery with serious injury. On June 7, 1997, he pled no contest and received a 1-year suspended sentence, along with 2 years probation. He was also ordered to pay a $2,800 fine, perform community service, and attend 8 counseling sessions. Frontman Bret Michaels from the band Poison and Charlie had formed the production company Sheen Michaels Entertainment in January 1997, after being introduced by a mutual Penthouse pet friend. In spite of all his legal troubles and his recurring problematic behavior, Charlie persevered. They released a total of 10 movies under their company, many of them starring Charlie, some starring both Charlie and his father Martin, and others with various other family and friends. This made it all the more clear that Charlie was almost compulsive in his efforts to rise to and attempt to supersede his older brother Emilio. Director Nick Cassavetes, most well known for The Notebook and My Sister's Keeper, directed their earliest film releases. Unhook the Stars in 1996 was co-written and directed by Nick and starring his mother Gina Rollins and Marissa Tomei. The next was She's So Lovely in 1997, written by Nick's late father, John Cassavetes, who had died in 1989. Son Nick, carrying on his father's legacy, always reserved a role for his mother Gina, leading up to his more popular films in later years. She's So Lovely gives a bit of a nod to first almost wife Kelly Preston. After shooting someone, the character Eddie, played by Sheen's high school friend Sean Penn, ends up in a mental hospital for 10 years, then comes back to find his wife married to a new man named Joey, whose role is played by none other than Kelly's new husband, John Travolta. The 1997 release of Money Talks was Brett Ratner's debut as a director, starring Charlie Sheen, Chris Tucker, and Heather Locklear. Tucker was still reveling in the success from The Fifth Element, and Locklear was a full-time cast member on the then-popular series Melrose Place. Even with securing a popular cast, the film was still met with mostly negative reviews, which just goes to show the importance of a good script and director. It seems that neither Emilio or Charlie had what it took to procure a successful film, but at least at the end of the day, this made them equal. Taking matters into their own hands, Brett directed and co-wrote No Code of Conduct with Charlie in 1998. Sheen also starred and served as an executive producer. The film plot seems sort of like a fantastical effort to bring Charlie and his father Martin together in film once again. The plot is reflective of Charlie's real life, sharing a handful of parallels of their father-son relationship. Among other things, Charlie plays a character in the same career as his father, has a strained marriage, and is feeling the pressure to live up to his father's reputation. The fantasy begins when the father-son duo embarks on the personal mission to avenge the death of a colleague, and in doing so, they uncover a drug smuggling ring. Although a valiant effort that had famous actors who could draw on real-life emotion, the film was released straight to video. Another example was Free Money, a Canadian black comedy film released in 1998, and was Marlon Brando's final film, also starring both Charlie and Martin Sheen, as well as Thomas Hayden Church, Donald Sutherland, David Arquette, and Mira Sorvino. This one, about a merciless warden who is manipulated by his twin daughters who have lied about pregnancies to arrange weddings with their 2 boyfriends. Instead, he turns the boyfriends into slave laborers. And yeah, I don't know either. There's no cast famous enough that could have made any sense of that one. There was also A Letter from Death Row, a psychological thriller released in November of 1998, written by Bret Michaels, starring Bret and Martin Sheen, with a cameo by Charlie, about a man on death row who is either guilty of murdering his girlfriend or the victim of a conspiracy and he's been framed. Again, none receiving any real recognition or success. If nothing else, this was a way for Charlie and Martin to spend quality time together, write off travel and other expenses, while turning a mediocre to moderate profit. Michaels has said about this fruitless endeavor that he taught Charlie how to properly trash a hotel room, and in return, Charlie taught him how to make movies and money. With the failure of his production company and his career falling to the wayside, Charlie likely found himself in the same hole of shame and self-loathing as his father once did while drinking and using. He had likely long since destroyed his nose and decided to try injecting. On May 20th, 1998, he suffered a stroke and a near-fatal cocaine overdose. Luckily, Charlie was found in his seaside home by a friend who alerted his bodyguard to call 911. Apparently, he had done 2 shots back-to-back because he claimed the first shot just didn't seem to be working. He was rushed to a hospital in Thousand Oaks, California, where he arrived in serious condition and had to have his stomach pumped. In June of 1998, the very poorly reviewed mystery film Postmortem was released. Charlie starred as James McGregor, a man who left Scotland who received an unknown person's obituary and was then arrested for their murder the next day. Charlie's performance was criticized immensely, with claims that he was mumbling and slurring his lines. His acting and the film's reception made his family all the more concerned for Charlie's well-being. And on August 11th, 1998, his father Martin decided to make it known to the authorities that Charlie had violated his probation back in May, and it was therefore extended by a year. He was then court-ordered to enter a rehab facility. After completing yet another rehab program, Charlie bounced right back and appeared as himself in fantasy comedy Being John Malkovich, released in October of 1999. This was Spike Jonze's directorial debut and first script written by Charlie Kaufman to become a feature film. He also served as an executive producer. This film came to fruition after Kaufman sent the script to Francis Ford Coppola, who then handed it off to Jones, who was his daughter Sofia Coppola's boyfriend at the time. Starring John Malkovich as himself, John Cusack, Cameron Diaz, and Catherine Keener, with cameos by Sean Penn, Winona Ryder, Andy Dick, Brad Pitt, the Hanson brothers, and Spike Jonze himself. Mid-1999, Charlie co-starred once again with Shooter McGavin in Five Aces. Charlie plays the main character, Chris Martin, who is excited to marry his longtime girlfriend, when a night out with friends begins to make him question his excitement of matrimony. He had also sunk a lot of time into a joint venture with brother Emilio called Rated X, also released in 2000, which in some ways showed that he conceded to the fact that his older brother may have been a more experienced and accomplished filmmaker than himself. They depicted the real-life story of the Mitchell brothers, Jim and Artie, who were said to be the pioneers of the adult film and adult-themed establishment frontier in San Francisco throughout the 70s and 80s. The brothers offered a fresh vision and new approach to the entire industry, which although brought great success to the pair, also carried great risk and personal struggle. They reenacted the behind-the-scenes and making of the duo's most profitable film, Behind the Green Door, and how their lives had spiraled out of control due to their drug and alcohol abuse. Most notably the younger brother Artie, who was of course played by Charlie, with Emilio cast as the older brother Jim. The character of Artie came naturally to Charlie, being that in many ways they were one and the same, mainly in how the two let fame and fortune carry them away into the extremes of temptation and indulgence. Looking back and watching this movie, we can now see that there's a lot of foreshadowing for what was to come regarding his addiction, relationships, and bad temper.
Come here. Did you f*** him? Tell me the truth.
It also shines an eerily similar light on the tension between Charlie and Emilio, and between the two and their father, and where they all stood in the industry.
Jim Mitchell, the porn king of San Francisco.
I mentioned you 3 times here.
Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. Not in here once, not even once. Every single story is Jim this, Jim fucking that.
Charlie met the fashion model and actress Denise Richards on the set of the comedy movie Good Advice in the year 2000. Charlie played hotshot stockbroker Ryan Turner, living the high life with shallow girlfriend Cindy, played by Denise, who writes an advice column. After he loses money for clients and finds himself out of a job, Cindy runs off to Brazil with another man, and Charlie's character ends up taking over her column. John Lovitz and Rosanna Arquette play their friends, the Shermans, to help him navigate the vastly new and unfitting career path. Denise was best known for her various roles in the late 90s and early 2000s. She co-starred in the neo-noir crime thriller remake of Wild Things, directed by John McNaughton, starring alongside Neve Campbell, Matt Dillon, Kevin Bacon, Bill Murray, and Robert Wagner. The film gained notoriety because of the extremely erotic scenes, unusual for mainstream Hollywood at the time, including scenes between Richards and Campbell, and a group session between the two actresses and Dillon. Another of her most notable parts was her Bond girl role in This World Is Not Enough in 1999. She also made guest appearances for television. Mid-2000, Charlie replaced Michael J. Fox on the political sitcom Spin City, a semi-pseudo perspective of the New York City's mayor's office, for seasons 5 and 6. Heather Locklear had been brought on in 1999 as new character Caitlin Moore, to lessen the original mayor, Michael J. Fox's, workload, who had been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 1998. Charlie was brought on when Michael's symptoms became more severe and noticeable in the year 2000, and shortly after Charlie and Denise had begun dating, she was brought on to play Charlie's character's love interest, Jennifer Duncan, for a total of 4 episodes. Charlie and Denise became engaged a few months later, on December 26, 2001, and were married June 15, 2002, at the estate of Spin City creator Gary David Goldberg.
You did an interview and you said that you've cleaned up your act.
I have, yeah.
Which I've heard in other areas, but you're now saying to people I've really changed.
Yeah.
You're living you're just living the good life.
I am, yeah. I'm a couple of weeks away from 3 years.
Good for you. That's terrific.
Yeah.
That's a nice news. Good thing to hear.
Taking it easy in the early 2000s, or being unable to secure any notable parts, Charlie made a handful of cameo appearances, including the documentary called The Last Party. This was a political documentary that followed the late Philip Seymour Hoffman as a concerned citizen on an uncensored journey of the state of American democracy during the Y2K election. Charlie appeared on the Celebrity Who Wants to Be a Millionaire show on November 14, 2000. He won $64,000 for the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's research. He then participated in Drew Carey's Improvaganza with the crew from Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Charlie Sheen a dead hooker.
And won a Golden Globe for Best Television Actor for the musical comedy drama in 2002 for his role in Spin City.
Thank you. I'm going to keep this short. I didn't want to prepare anything and look like I might have an idea that I'd be here holding this. This is so surreal. It's just like a sober acid trip. Sorry. Oh my God. This is really happening.
His father Martin and older brother Ramon founded Estevez Sheen Productions in 2002, but it lay dormant for a number of years. Meanwhile, Charlie was working on short film Deeper Than Deep, released in 2003, portraying adult film mogul Charles Chuck Traynor, alongside Patricia Arquette, who co-starred as Linda Lovelace.
Linda Lovelace. That's gotta go up on a billboard, right?
A popular adult film actress of the early to mid-70s, most well known for her role in Deep Throat, which first premiered at the World Theater June 12, 1972. In the earliest stages of the golden age of porn, the spotlight only being shared by 2 other highest-grossing adult films, Behind the Green Door and The Devil and Miss Jones. These were some of the first films of such nature that had plot and character development and a relatively high production value. This made Linda an overnight success, but the reality behind the Lovelace character was nothing to be celebrated. It was revealed in 1980 in her tell-all book called Ordeal that much of her acting was done under duress and threats of violence to herself and her family, including beatings and the use of firearms to force her to comply, including but not limited to an AR-15 rifle and a .45 automatic. She also took a polygraph test in 1979 to reaffirm her allegations against Traynor prior to the release of her book. After Traynor had separated from Linda between 1974 and 1975, he began seeing Marilyn Chambers, the star of the competing film Behind the Green Door, which we touched on previously in Charlie and Emilio's film Rated X. Chuck and Marilyn were together for roughly 10 years, as husband and wife, and manager and client. Whether or not there were any threats or violence in the relationship is unknown. Perhaps she was compliant enough that she didn't require any coercion, and the two made a perfect pair in the industry. The short film Deeper Than Deep has since been completely buried, scrubbed from the archives and the internet, for no particular reason or any explanation. There's very little information left about the film itself, and you can't find any clips, or even a trailer. The only remnants is that we know it existed, but that's it. I scraped the entire interverse, out of sheer morbid curiosity. If anyone can find me a copy, or link me to it, I'd be incredibly shocked and impressed. About a decade later, Linda's story was made into a feature-length film called Lovelace, released in 2013. With Amanda Seyfried as Linda, and Peter Sarsgaard as Chuck, joined by a star-studded cast including Sharon Stone, Adam Brody, James Franco, Hank Azaria, and Chloe Zavini. Seeing it in the mainstream makes it even more strange that a short film from 2003 of the same topic would be wiped. Could be because Patricia Arquette next appeared in Disney's Western dramedy Holes, a film meant for children, and she didn't want the Lovelace role to taint her image, or perhaps there was a concern it would distract from the feature film, who really knows. Charlie's choice to represent these specific influential figures during said golden age of porn could be a mere fascination with the dawn of the industry itself, but the stories behind the characters are quite grim, and it kind of makes you wonder what piqued his interest more. Especially considering he dated many adult film actresses, then factoring in his violence against women in general. Was he idolizing the characters of Artie Mitchell and Chuck Traynor, or were these roles intended as a cautionary tale to himself? Charlie participated in a handful of other films after starting in television, including joining the cast for horror parody Scary Movie 3 as Tom Logan, but as we all know, he became most well known for his part as Charlie Harper in the sitcom 2.5 Men, which first began airing in September of 2003. His starring role was intended to be based on his real life, as a hedonistic party animal and womanizer. The big key difference was that the character was a jingle writer for a living, rather than an actor. I should also point out the other differences, because they are an ongoing conflict throughout his life and career. His character Charlie Harper was written as the older and more successful brother, where his younger brother Alan is made out to be nothing more than a bumbling mooch. The two brothers also have mother issues rather than father issues, with the father being non-existent, but don't tell Freud, he'd have a heyday. The Alan character is often ridiculed for his lesser career, and is constantly harped on about his choice to start a family, and his devotion to the mother of his child that he is separated from. Charlie's role as an uncle in the show, however, is likely a vivid reflection of the relationship he has with his kids, the fun uncle rather than any sort of parent or caregiver. There is a lot of emphasis in the show of Charlie's lifestyle being more favorable over the home/family lifestyle, with his failed engagements and short-term marriages being nothing more than small blips on the radar of his fun-filled island of promiscuity and partying. It could be said that the off-and-on recurring character of Candy, played by April Bowlby, Charlie's ditzy girlfriend, then later as Alan's girlfriend and second wife, was some kind of tribute to the Candy he lost his virginity to. It's also strange how he foreshadowed the separation from Denise on the show. The two were still together when the first season was taping and aired, where Denise plays his ex. Differences being that she rejected his proposal and she went ahead and married another man. In the second season, she appears in one more episode, this time with a child, her other marriage in pieces, and she is thinking about taking Charlie up on his proposal. Charlie, warming up to the idea of being a stepfather, attempts to fool Lisa into believing he's good with babies. Lisa's baby was Charlie and Denise's first daughter Sam, who was born March 9th, 2004. It's almost as if Charlie was portraying his life how he would have preferred it to be perceived, rather than the fiery mess it often became.
Charlie is very upset with you and does not know how to handle it.
Charlie's mad at me?
Yes, because our daughter looks just like you.
Oh my God. Can we check this? Is it okay to show this photo?
Sure.
All right, I it's here and none of them. Oh my God.
He doesn't know.
And you know what? I have that same bat. That's the one that I...
In October of 2004, Sheen was the spokesperson for Lee National Denim Day, a breast cancer fundraiser created by Lee Jeans that raises millions of dollars for research and education regarding the disease. Whether his charitable work was because he was philanthropic by nature, or he was trying to stave off the guilt from when he was doing wrong, it's hard to say. But by March of 2005, Richards had filed for divorce, accusing Sheen of drug abuse, alcoholism, and threats of violence. She was already 6 months pregnant with their second daughter Lola Rose, who was born June 1st, 2005. Charlie's dance and romance with the devil had been reignited the night of their honeymoon, while Sheen was meant to be in recovery and had been attending AA, but all the while he was heavily medicating the Xanax and had begun frequently gambling. Throughout Denise's second pregnancy with Lola, Charlie later admitted that he'd been abusing benzodiazepines, tranquilizers, and an opioid known as narco as an alternative to street narcotics. Denise also alleged that Charlie watched pornography containing persons who appeared underage. Some videos contained both young men and women, but were predominantly featuring young men only. Charlie denied these claims, stating that the FBI was aware of the allegations and had searched his home and computers. Regardless, the divorce was finalized in November of 2006, and the custody dispute ensued. He was ordered to stay 300 feet away from his wife and daughters. A dispute was also noted regarding the medical care of their children. When I vaccinated Sam, he accused me of poisoning her, and I knew when he said that the marriage wasn't going to work. Charlie's relationships with his girlfriends and wives were more accurately described as torrid love affairs, but this could be attributing to the potential struggle he was having with his sexuality, which would cause friction and a disconnect in his relationships with women. Add drugs and alcohol into the mix, and you have a recipe for disaster. The quest for his perception of peak straight male dominance became wrought with torment, self-hate, and anger, which in turn boiled over, scalding those around him. In spite of his frequent transgressions involving the opposite sex, Charlie was a strong supporter and friend of the gay community. He was a major donor and supporter of Aid for AIDS, and in 2006, he was honored with an AFA Angel Award at the 25th Silver Anniversary reception in 2009. He also acted as a celebrity judge for several years for their annual fundraiser, Best Drag In Show, which raises about $250,000 each year in LA for AIDS assistance. Charlie has had an interest in the support of AIDS treatment and research as early as 1987, when he openly supported Ryan White, an Indiana teen who had become infected after receiving a blood transfusion. Charlie attended the For the Love of Children AIDS Benefit Gala with White and actress Marlee Matlin in July 1988. Charlie had a supporting role in Scary Movie 4, released in April 2006. He played Tom Logan, the brother-in-law of the series' recurring character Cindy Campbell, played by Anna Faris, although his part was uncredited. Summer of 2006, Charlie unveiled the Sheen Kids clothing line, which was a 75-piece, girls-only line, apparently inspired by and as a tribute to his daughters Sam and Lola. Supposedly, Britney Spears was also interested in starting a kids' clothing line at the time, likely a boys-only clothing line because of her sons, and her people had approached Charlie Sheen about a partnership. Unfortunately, Sheen Kids didn't last, and the collaboration with Britney never took shape. In September of 2006, Charlie spoke with radio host Alex Jones to show support for the then rapidly growing 9/11 truther movement.
I guess start by what happened on 9/11, what your instincts told you, and really just go from there.
Well, it was interesting. It's interesting because a lot of these guys, you sort of look behind the notes and you start to discover inconsistencies in a lot of the claims that they're making, which pretty much torpedoes the credibility of most of their substance. They want to just pigeonhole all of us into this group of conspiracy nutbags, when we're not really debating things that are related to UFOs bringing down the towers or Building 7 or the Pentagon, right? It seems to me like, 19 amateurs with box cutters taking over 4 commercial airliners and hitting 75% of their targets. That feels like a conspiracy theory.
Did Al-Qaeda run drills, CIA and Pentagon drills on the morning of 9/11 of hijacked jets hitting those exact same targets at those exact same times, and then drills the day before and drills 2 weeks before?
Seems like the worm is turning, because you start talking about this even with conservative Republicans, and they can't really debate away some of the most obvious facts on that day. Call me insane, but did it sort of look like those buildings came down in a controlled demolition?
Charlie later spoke at a truther convention in Los Angeles with Alex Jones and mentioned his theory once again on Jimmy Kimmel Live. Charlie was introduced to real estate mogul and small bit actor Brooke Mueller by mutual friends Rebecca Gayheart and her husband Brett Ratner at Ratner's birthday party in 2006. Moving quickly, as per usual, the two became engaged in 2007. March 27, 2008, Charlie Sheen and Jenna Elfman co-hosted a Scientology-affiliated charity event, the New York Rescue Workers Detoxification Project, co-founded and primarily funded by actor Tom Cruise. Though Sheen himself is not a Scientologist, he has admitted that ex-wife Kelly Preston and her husband John Travolta did try to lure him into joining the church. The Detoxification Project aimed to use the purification rundown method invented by L. Ron Hubbard, founder of Scientology. The method has been criticized by medical professionals and is said to be pseudoscientific and medically dangerous. At the time, the couple were using the purification rundown to treat their son, Jet Travolta. He was said to have suffered from Kawasaki disease since he was a toddler, was autistic, and had a history of seizures. They eventually stopped using the method as it was causing organ damage. He was found deceased less than a year later in the bathroom of their vacation home in the Bahamas at 16 years old on January 2, 2009. Although it seems pretty likely that the medical treatments that Scientology had encouraged were the cause of death, Kelly praises the cult for helping her overcome the grief of her loss. I'll go into Scientology more in its own video, if ever there was a source of secrecy, greed, and manipulation within Hollywood. Charlie and Brooke were married May 30th, 2008. Very shortly after, they welcomed twin sons into the world, Bob and Max, who were born on March 14th, 2009. Brooke became known in the real estate industry for purchasing the Spice Girls' Melanie B house and profiting $500,000 within 9 months of this transaction. She is also close friends with Paris Hilton, who lived 2 doors down from the home she had shared with Sheen. Her best known, however small, movie roles were Witch House and Strictly Sexual, under the name Brooke Allen, Allen likely being a tribute to her father Allen, who had died in a motorcycle accident when she was 12 years old. 2008 proved to be a slow year for Charlie, aside from his starring role on 2.5 Men, likely taking time off to spend with his new wife and newborn sons. However, he did make 2 guest appearances as himself on CSI and The Big Bang Theory.
Hey, buddy, I'm gonna be in People magazine. Yeah, call me when you're on the cover.
On May 26, 2008, Denise's reality show, It's Complicated, premiered, looking to capitalize on her high-profile divorce and the struggles she faced thereafter.
Really excited about the show. It's going to be a combination of everything: my career, my home life, my friends, a little bit of kids. My dad, who everyone loves, is also on this season as well.
Charlie considered the series greedy, vain, and exploitative, and refused to agree to their daughters being filmed for it. Denise was granted allowance after taking the matter to court in January of 2008.
Hey girls, I got a surprise. Isn't he cute? We found a little husband for Charlotte.
Should we send him back or keep him?
Keep him.
September 8, 2009, Charlie appealed to President Obama to set up a new investigation into the 9/11 attacks, in which he believes former President George W. Bush and his administration were responsible. December 25, 2009, Charlie was arrested for pulling a knife on Brooke in their home in Aspen, Colorado, during a dispute.
Tell me exactly what happened.
No, my husband had me with a knife, and I was scared for my life, and he threatened me.
What's your husband's name?
It's Charlie Sheen.
According to an affidavit, Mueller told police Sheen pinned her down on the bed, holding the knife to her throat and threatening to kill her.
Although this was not his first case of domestic violence, he was released the same day after posting an $8,500 bond. It was later revealed that Sheen and Mueller had been engaging in sex with an unknown male. Brooke was secretly photographing and videotaping the crack-fueled encounters, and had threatened to release them publicly unless he tore up the prenuptial agreement. This was apparently what led to the attack. Charlie didn't want the world to know he was engaging in homosexual escapades, and he didn't like that Brooke could potentially have one over on him. He in turn threatened to share photo and video evidence of her drug use and paraphernalia should she release the footage of him. Mueller then tried to recant her statement, but by then it was already too late. Charlie filed for divorce and paid Mueller $750,000 as per their prenuptial agreement. In February 2010, Charlie checked himself into rehab as a preventative measure. He was worried that the stress of the assault case and the divorce was going to cause a relapse, which would have been a violation of his probation. May 2010, Charlie signed an agreement to return to the sitcom 2.5 Men for another 2 years. The same month, Denise was awarded full custody of their daughters Sam and Lola. She had requested sole custody out of concern for the girls due to Charlie's unpredictable lifestyle and marital turmoil. Charlie did not dispute her request and was granted visitation rights. The other purpose for this was so that Denise could make all medical, schooling, and other important decisions for their daughters without having to seek approval from Charlie. August 2nd, 2010, Charlie appeared in court and pled guilty to the misdemeanor assault charge in correlation to the altercation between he and Brooke during Christmas 2009. He was ordered to spend 30 days in rehab was given 3 months probation, and required to attend 36 hours of anger management counseling as part of his plea deal, and to avoid jail time. Failing once again to learn his lesson, or maybe perhaps for the complete lack of actual consequences and punishment, on October 26, 2010, the police removed Sheen from his suite at the Plaza Hotel after he reportedly caused $7,000 in damage during a naked, drug-fueled rage. Adding to his merits as Father of the Year, he was apparently staying at the same hotel with ex-wife Denise for a supervised visitation with their 2 daughters, who were residing in a separate room.
Continues to get up, go to the bathroom, come back several different times. And meanwhile, you're talking to Denise Richards, and at one point she says, "I'm just leaving. I didn't, quote, realize it was going to be a party of floozies." Is that what she said?
She said something along those lines. She was definitely a little bit taken back by the whole evening, I'm sure.
Sheen had lost track of his wallet, cell phone, and watch, and suspected the woman had stolen from him, before flying into a rage, locking her in the closet, and then passing out on the bed. Charlie was then hospitalized, and his publicist reported that he'd suffered an allergic reaction to his new medication that he was taking. As if, but the truth would have been yet another violation of his probation, and not in the best interest of his management team. Adult film actress Christina Walsh, aka Capri Anderson, was the woman in his room at the time. On November 22, 2010, she appeared on Good Morning America to describe the violent episode she had allegedly experienced at the hands of Charlie.
Assault, false imprisonment, that he grabbed you around the neck, threw a lamp at you, threatened to kill you. That can't have been what you expected.
When I became really uncomfortable was when he put his hands around my neck. But at that point, things began to very rapidly kind of fall apart and just really get out of hand. So that was really when things started to go wrong, and when I felt like I was no longer in a good situation and that I should try my best to leave or get out of there. I started to resist, and as soon as I did that, he let off of me. And I, as quickly as I could, got up and began to walk towards my purse, my dress, and my cellular phone. He started throwing things. He threw a lamp. That was the first thing he picked up. And he threw it across the room at me.
He filed a lawsuit against her with the claim that she was trying to extort money from him, which he later dropped in August 2011. Also in November of 2010, Brooke and Charlie's divorce was finalized, citing irreconcilable differences. In the papers, Charlie noted that their separation had started December 25, 2009, the day after their altercation. January 2011, Charlie was hospitalized with severe abdominal pains. He voluntarily entered rehab after a 36-hour partying endeavor. Initially, it was said that the pain was due to a hernia, but it was later exposed that Charlie had suffered yet another overdose.
I've never seen someone so self-destructive. I thought maybe it was almost like a suicide binge.
Casey Jordan is an adult film actress who says she was offered $5,000 to attend a party at Sheen's home last Monday.
I see Charlie sitting there. He's wearing an all-white shirt, covered in wine stains. His hair is all messed up.
About 3 a.m., she says Sheen asked one of them to produce drugs from the night before.
He asks, Melanie, where's the drugs? Where's the drugs? And she's like, oh, we ran out, don't you remember? And he's like, ran out? Oh, we gotta call my boy. The guy eventually shows up, and he opens up his bag, and he just dumps open, I would say about 5, maybe about this big.
Tennis ball size.
Tennis ball size of cocaine. He wanted us to all live in this huge house that he was gonna rent out, and he's like, you can have anything you want. And we're just gonna party, we're gonna have fun.
Just a constant party? He just wanted to set up a house with a constant party?
Yeah, he wants to retire, he just wants to have fun.
At the end of the night, Jordan says when she asked to be paid her fee,
he's just kind of sitting there is 25 good enough? And I'm like, yeah, 25's good enough. And he's like, we'll make it 30.
TMZ obtained this copy of the check. Jordan says the bank called Sheen to verify it, while she listened nearby. Sheen's representatives released this statement to ABC News. Charlie is currently seeking the medical attention that he needs and has the full support of his legal team, his agents, and his employers at CBS. It is a shame that during this time, while Mr. Sheen has sought treatment on his own, opportunistic women are trying to take advantage of his celebrity status.
On March 1st, 2011, police removed the twins from Sheen's home. Social services had deemed Charlie unfit to have any unsupervised access to the boys, after Mueller had obtained a restraining order against Charlie. Brooke had filed the order after Charlie threatened to cut her head off, put it in a box, and send it to her mother. At the time, Charlie was reportedly living at his Mulholland estate with both 24-year-old adult film actress Brie Olson and 24-year-old model and graphic designer Natalie Kenley.
Who are your goddesses?
Well, you've read about the goddesses. Come on, they're an international sensation. These are my girlfriends. These are the women that I love that have completed the three parts of my heart.
They were the women who were by his side throughout our interview. Natalie Kenley, a former nanny and model, and Rachel Oberlin, a porn star. Is this like a family for you?
Absolutely.
The two of you?
Absolutely. Yeah, we all love and care about each other. So we all have our own connections with one another. Natty and Charlie have their own special connection. I have my own connection with Charlie, and then Natty and I also have our own relationship. And it works well for us. I mean, it's unconventional, and it seems crazy to everybody else, but for us, I mean, it works well. And we all love and respect each other and respect each other's boundaries.
Also in March of 2011, adult film star Casey Jordan, who was paid $36,000 to be at a Plaza Hotel party months prior, claims the encounter resulted in an unwanted pregnancy.
What's the likelihood that the baby was Charlie's? Hey,
You know, I'm not trying to get any kind of money or anything like that.
No, I get it, but you had the abortion, but what's the likelihood the baby was?
But you already got $30,000.
Yeah, I know, I don't need any more money. I'm pretty good off.
Faking units in there,
Casey, maybe it's his baby?
No, he'll probably blow me up.
She later tried to end her own life while staying at the Peninsula Hotel. After posting what were considered cries for help on Twitter, police eventually arrived. She had cuts on her arms, and the room was in disarray, but Casey told them it was a publicity stunt. In April of 2011, Charlie announced the unveiling of nicotine electronic cigarettes in a partnership with former baseball player and friend Lenny Dykstra. Mid-2011, Brooke co-starred in the pseudo-reality series The World According to Paris, while living with Paris and mother Kathy Hilton. This kept Brooke in close proximity to Sheen, and seemed like it was used advantageously within the reality show, due to the popularity of the Wild Sheen saga. This also likely contributed to Brooke's downward spiral following the divorce. In the meantime, 2.5 Men had maintained a primetime slot following other popular nighttime TV shows, such as Everybody Loves Raymond. By the 8th and final season, Charlie was earning the still record-holding amount of $1.78 million per episode. However, Charlie's character was immediately canceled after he'd made negative comments about the show's creator Chuck Lorre in February 2011. He was initially demanding a 50% pay raise based on the show's status, ratings, and earnings. When it was denied, the chaos ensued.
Hiya, Chuck. Cheese ball. Where you hiding, silly clown? Behind your narcissism? Your greed? Your hatred of yourself or women? Which personality are you cowering beneath for transparent cover? I see you, you little worm. I see you behind your plastic smile, your bitchy pout, and your desperate need to be liked. Forget love. Ship sailed when you were born, to use one of your stupid and unfunny jokes. Good luck with those tin cans, shitbrain, and the mush mouth of some pathetic carcass you so arrogantly attempted to trade out for this warlock. Think of me often, loser, during your most quiet moments. All alone in the world, staring into the mirror, your least favorite activity. Think of me as you pray to the silly god of AA, while begging refuge from the contaminated image of hatred and dismay that so painfully glares back. Can you smell your soul? Can you smell the rotting dog shit? The fermented puke that is your viscera? Can you smell the lies? Can you smell the carnage you've created? Can you smell the imposter living within? Can you smell the whimpering, scared child you'll never have the courage to embrace? Can you smell your mother's tears from some distant memory as she stared at her pathetic creation, asking all around her why this feeble abortion survived? Can you smell it, Chuck? It smells like malaria, in case you were wondering. If sad and stupid had a foul odor attached, it would be you, Bori. You gotta hate that your stage name rhymes with suck. Personally, I find it perfect. Suck and muck. You picked a fight with a warlock, you little worm. Remember this. After that first drink back. The drink you know you want. The drink you can't avoid any longer. How's it taste? How's it feel? Are you whole again? At peace? In love? You are no match for this warlock. My power will consume you every losing day, ugly whore. Let's do a scene, maggot. I speak first, duh. Me. Are you an assailant? Bori. I'm a showrunner. Me. You're neither. You're an ugly clown sent by corporate fools to collect your fill. Chew heartily, loser. Shortly from now, you'll have nothing left. Nothing. How's last night's 2.8 in the demo feel? Ouch. How about last night's 2.6 as well to follow it? Should have gone up. Instead it went down like you on some $4 trollop. Sizzle, losing, bye. You're all nothing shy of traitors. Your irrational egos will be your downfall. Mark this warlock's words. Defeat is not an option.
Charlie went on to sue Laurie and Warner Brothers Television for $100 million plus punitive damages. He was dismissed from his role and banned from the Warner Brothers production lot.
I've spent, I think, close to the last decade effortlessly and magically converting your tin cans into pure gold. And the gratitude I get is this charlatan, clearly someone who believes he is above the law. Well, you've been warned, dude. Bring it.
Sheen's comments appear to be the final straw for CBS. Based on the totality of Charlie Sheen's statements, conduct, and condition, CBS and Warner Brothers Television have decided to discontinue production of 2.5 Men for the remainder of the season. Hours later, Sheen wrote this open letter to Laurie. I fire back once and this contaminated little maggot can't handle my power. I wish him nothing but pain. Clearly, I have defeated this earthworm with my words. Imagine what I would have done with my fire-breathing fists. Earlier this week, his father, Martin Sheen, weighed in on his son's troubles.
If he had cancer, how would we treat him, you know? The disease of addiction is a form of cancer.
I have a disease? Bullshit. I cured it with my brain, with my mind. This bootleg cult, arrogantly referred to as Alcoholics Anonymous, Alex, supports a 5% success rate. My success rate is 100%.
I had no idea what to do next. It wasn't, okay, now let's move forward and find someone to replace him. I really thought we were done, you know. So, I mean, it was a while later that I started thinking initially about Hugh Grant, you know. Is there anyone else who can play the decadent character with elegance and charm like Charlie, you know? And it's a very rare quality. It goes back to Dean Martin.
His contract was officially terminated on March 7th, 2011, and he was immediately replaced by Ashton Kutcher. Right after his official dismissal, he was seen on a rooftop in Beverly Hills, wielding a machete and drinking from a bottle labeled Tiger's Blood.
You're the best, Johnny!
Hey, Charlie, what are you going to do now?
Charlie went on to bash Chuck on various independent media platforms, while also going on what were mostly considered mentally disturbed tirades by both the media and his vast audience, many of whom had never watched 2.5 Men, but found Sheen's life itself gripping. He therefore set the Guinness record for fastest to reach 1 million followers on Twitter, and signed a deal with a marketing agency that worked with both Facebook and Twitter. The peak of his very public outbursts came during his famous interview where he claimed he was not bipolar, but bi-winning.
I think some of those things that you're putting out there are making people think something's wrong with you.
That has nothing to do with me, really. I mean, they're entitled to, I suppose, interpret stuff as they must. What are you a doctor of?
Some are saying that you're bipolar.
Wow, what does that mean?
I guess that, you're on two ends of the spectrum.
Wow. And then what? What's the cure? Medicine? Make me like them? Not gonna happen. I'm bi-winning. I win here and I win there. Now what? If I'm bipolar, aren't there moments where a guy like crashes and like in the corner, like, oh my God, it's all my mom's fault? Shut up. Shut up. Stop. Move forward.
When was the last time you used?
I use a blender, I use a vacuum cleaner, I use, household items. When was the last time I ingested or took drugs?
Yes, when was the last time you took drugs?
Such an AA stupid expression or term. I don't remember.
What are we talking about? How much?
I don't know, man. I was banging 7-gram rocks and finishing them because that's how I roll. I have one speed, I have one gear. Go.
How do you survive that?
Because I'm me. Because I'm me, I'm different. I just have a different constitution, I have a different brain, I have a different heart, I have a different, I get tiger blood, man.
You don't worry that you're gonna die when you take that many drugs?
Dying's for fools.
Are you worried you're going to relapse?
No.
Why?
Because I'm not going to, period, the end.
But how do you
I blinked
know?
and I cured my brain. That's how. Everybody has the power. Just because everybody, can't is the cancer of happen. Can't is the cancer of happen. I can't do it. The Nike slogan doesn't say, just try it. Oh, okay. Just try it. No, just do it, man.
But you love to party.
I mean, what's not to love?
How do
Especially when you see how I party, man. It was epic. The run I was on made Sinatra, Flynn, Jagger, Richards, all of them just look like, droopy-eyed, armless children.
The first question America wants to know, are you clean right now?
Look at me, duh. Drug tests don't lie. They think it's a one-size-fits-all, but it didn't fit me, and I just got tired of subscribing to something with a 5% success rate. As a retired gambler, I need better odds than that,
Did you turn to alcohol and other substances because you were bored?
No, I did that because they work.
Work to do what?
Just change the way you see things, change the way you feel. And yeah, when you're a little bit bored with the redundancy of certain aspects of your life, I think that's why people do them.
You've told me you're at war with them now.
Well, we're definitely at war, yeah.
What's the war?
Well, the war is that they're trying to destroy my family. And so I take great umbrage with that. And defeat is not an option. They picked a fight with a warlock. People that aren't special, people that don't have tiger blood and, Adonis DNA.
Strong people have relapsed. Strong people have started using again. How do you avoid that?
Fools, trolls, weak, defeated. They allowed defeat to be an option. I will not. I've got Roman Coppola with a brilliant script. I've got David Ward with Major League 3. I've got Nick Cassavetes with God is a Bullet. I mean, it's like the list goes on.
You have offers?
Well, yeah, and they're like so excited that I might be available because I haven't been for 8 years.
No, but I dare anyone to debate me on things. Debate me on AA right now. I have a disease, I cured it with my brain, with my mind.
Right out of here, Chuck. So if this is, in fact, your handbook for living, I direct your attention to page 417. You know what's coming. And acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. When I am disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, thing, or situation, some fact of my life unacceptable to me. And I can find no serenity until I accept that person, place, thing, or situation as being exactly the way it is supposed to be at this moment. Accept me, Chuck. You're either in my corner, or you're with the trolls. Now, before we get into Sheen's Corner here, explain to you what's going on tonight, which is basically a kind of disorganized, random experiment of sorts. I need to give a big shout out to my children, Cassandra, Sam, Lola, Bob, and Max. Daddy loves you, and if you're watching, tell Mom to leave the room. It's on. Yeah. Why? Howard Stern does that. It's lame. It's retarded. It's transparent. It's the work of trolls. Why not just leave that to a man who only wants to talk about anal and stupidity? Yeah, I know, and my thing is fucking gold and platinum and diamonds and every other precious fucking gem that falls out of fucking losers' buttholes, you know what I'm saying? The informant is cat shit stuck to the bottom of my sprinting shoe, of my world record-breaking sprinting perfect platinum Nike. It's kind of an gnarly image. I'm burning my own face, but I can't feel the fucking heat because I don't feel fucking pain. So, it is what it is. What a dumb expression. It is what it is. Yeah, you are how you are. Clearly. Leave. Goodbye. Boring. Execute it.
mean six figures, okay?
Okay, great. Well, as it should be, duh, we're still getting gypped.
Have you had your breakfast yet, my friend?
No, I'm smoking a cigarette and drinking something I won't reveal. Unless they pay me.
Thank you for that one. It was fucking brilliant.
That's what I thought. Fucking brilliant covers it, thank you.
Okay, winner. Winner.com.
Winner.com. Winner chicken dinner. I don't think so. Winner Sheen dinner. And it's inhabited, its soul is inhabited by the ghost of Betty, and now it will murder people. It will eat trolls with its razor fangs. And drop their spleens off at their children's tiny houses. Foiled by fauns and trolls. Can you hear me? Babaloo, babaloo. Can you hear me?
I'm hearing you, buddy.
Okay, good.
I'm listening and deciphering.
Good luck with that. You finally woke up to that? Hold on, I'm gonna drink the secret elixir down below the frame line.
I bought you some Paddock Philippe souvenirs today. I think you'll enjoy them.
I'll
try.
Hold on. It's awesome. It's awesome. It's the best drink in the world. But what is it? I won't show it because I haven't been paid for it. We're back on. People are calling through, and it pisses me off because they're like interrupting again my brilliance.
Yeah, I love that new phone system. Works well.
It's insane, isn't it? It's just perfect and beautiful and sucks.
All right, you loving life, dude?
Well, I mean, what's not to love? It's my life. Winning.
And life's loving you.
Yeah, you know, it's about time.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you went solo. You had fun with it, right?
I had more than fun. I had me with it.
Yeah, I like the way you go to Ustream and you see, right when you go to Ustream.com, you see the picture of Charlie, and you can click on it and watch the show. It's fucking 8 minutes. Brilliant. Yep. Yeah, I'm going to reach out to him because I think we should do my book. Incidentally, the title, best title of all time, Apocalypse Me, The Jaws of Life. Should we get Bezos on the phone? Apocalypse Me, The Jaws of Life. That was brilliant. You should see the images. And through Kindle. That way we save a bunch of trees because they give us our oxygen, face it, right? And we love trees. Must keep as many around as we can. Must maybe even marry a tree. Marry a tree because, you know, the other type of marriage for me didn't work, so I'm just going to marry a tree.
He announced a one-man comedy tour around the U.S., where he donated $1 per ticket to the Red Cross Japanese Earthquake Relief Fund. His nationwide tour of My Violent Torpedo of Truth / Defeat is Not an Option began in Detroit on April 2nd. The tour sold out in 18 minutes, a Ticketmaster record at the time. It was a strange mix of it being like in a baseball stadium, with an onstage guitar player playing riffs, some movie clips on a projector behind him. He seemed to have no real direction or plan. Showed up late, then mostly just mingled with the audience. He rambled on basically the same way he was doing in his Ustreams. Many folks were disappointed and started getting up and leaving in the middle of the show.
You got a line there.
Everybody comes here and they pay their money and that's fantastic. But I hear all these people get on him like you want to see some kind of train wreck. But most of the people already wrecked when they already get here. One speed, go, we're gone, bye, sizzle.
Who's next?
People became so displeased, the rest of the audience poured out of the theater after finally booing Charlie off stage. Some were disappointed he wasn't as drunk, high, and outrageous as they expected. Others were upset that he was exactly what he had been portraying himself as. It was not a shtick, the way it was made out to be in 2.5 Men.
We're leaving after 20 minutes of Charlie showing up, which he was an hour late. And it was a bunch of babble that no one could even understand.
It sucked. It was terrible. I don't want to hear him talking about him being a warlock. I thought he was actually joking about all this stuff.
Do you think he might have a mental illness?
He sucked.
It's not true. It's not true. Have a heart.
Poor Charlie.
He started off brilliant. You were with him from the start. All right. He started off with some old film clips, like Apocalypse Now and all this, and him and stuff, and it was very cool. And then he came in and he said a couple brilliant things. He was charming. He was I thought it was charming. It was cool.
It's awful. It's horrible. He's not going anywhere. I walked in and I watched and I waited and I waited and I waited. It's horrible.
He's been doing a lot of talking of warlocks and trolls. Were you half expecting that?
I honestly enjoyed the ramblings. This was not a rambling. I mean, it was so much more. It was so drawn out. It was horrible.
Absolute train wreck. Train wreck.
Horrible.
No.
Horrible. Nothing.
Sucking.
Nothing.
Sucking.
Nothing.
Sucking.
So bad. So bad. Oh.
The worst show ever. Terrible. So bad. Terrible.
Olsen moved out in April 2011. Kenley left in June 2011.
There was not a lot of drama. Everybody was, it was mutually agreed upon.
Every man's dream, or did it get complicated?
It get complicated, yeah. Yeah, it's I still believe in that model. I think you can live with two women, but I don't. They gotta be the right women, and I think they have to know each other before they know you. I don't think you can just pick randomly and put them together and expect it to be perfect, because it doesn't work. It doesn't work, Pierce. Yeah.
On May 2nd, 2011, the divorce was finalized, and Charlie began paying Brooke $55,000 a month in child support, as well as a lump sum of $757,698.70, and another $1 million for her share of the home. In July 2011, Mueller completed an outpatient program. She had admitted herself during the filming of World According to Paris, when she was having struggles with her sobriety, and sought help from the Hilton family matriarch Kathy. During her outpatient treatment, she was able to spend evenings with the twins, while Charlie still had them for visitation every other weekend. On August 10th, 2011, Charlie supported Cherubs, an organization to help critically ill babies. While wearing a Charlie's Cherubs baseball jersey, he asked his fans to vote to help the organization win research money. The flip side of that coin was on August 13th, 2011, when Sheen hosted the 12th annual Gathering of the Juggalos, an event created by the Insane Clown Posse. He was heckled and booed and had random objects thrown at him, as many celebrity guests have at this event in the past. Nevertheless, he is seen wearing a Psychopathic Records hat in public and during production meetings for anger management. On September 3rd, 2011, the YouTube channel Over the Line Comedy uploaded a country music video by Scuzz Twitty called Party Like Charlie Sheen, putting a clever and humorous spin on Charlie's wild and reckless antics. It's quite catchy and worth checking out. You can find the link below, but...
Y'all come back now. Here.
On September 19th, 2011, the infamous Comedy Central roast of Charlie Sheen aired exactly 1 hour after the first episode of 2.5 Men aired, with Ashton Kutcher as Charlie's replacement. It was watched by 6.4 million people, and is still the highest rated roast on Comedy Central to this day. Before taping the roast, Charlie had the participants over for a get-together at his home. He pulled Steve-O aside and said,
"You know, man, Steve-O, you and me, when we go down in flames, we don't fuck around."
In reference to Steve-O's legendary party days, during the peak of Jackass and his crash and burn thereafter. During the roast, Amy Schumer cracks a joke about the late Ryan Dunn, another member of Jackass and close friend of Steve-O's, who had just passed away in a car accident 3 months prior, in June 2011.
And Steve-O is here. Steve-O, great try. Steve-O! But I truly am, no joke, sorry for the loss of your friend Ryan Dunn. I know you must have been thinking it could have been me, and I know we were all thinking, why wasn't it? Thank you.
It was in such poor taste, and the look on Steve-O's face said it all. As if it's ever a good time to make a joke about somebody's dead friend. But this was not only unexpected, but it was untimely. Ryan Dunn was only 34 years old. The Jackass crew is on the list, so stay tuned for that.
Your car's gonna be missing for a few days.
No, it isn't.
I told Ryan Dunn he could use it.
Why would Ryan Dunn, the person who has flipped more cars in his lifetime than Evel Knievel, take my car? You better not be doing anything to my car.
On December 3rd, 2011, Brooke was arrested for cocaine possession with intent to distribute in the amount of 4 grams, and third-degree assault outside a nightclub in Aspen, Colorado. She posted an $11,000 bond and was released. She entered a long-term inpatient rehab facility on December 13th and returned to court December 19th, 2011. It's unclear where the twins were staying during this time.
Charlie Sheen died and went to FX.
In June of 2012, Charlie's comedy series, Anger Management, premiered on FX.
You can't fire me. I quit. Think you can replace me with some other guy? Go ahead. It won't be the same. You may think I'm losing, but I'm not. Anyway, you get the idea. And those are just some generic examples of frustrations you can take out on Bobo, our new bopping bag, to express your anger in a healthy way.
A spin-off of the 2003 film starring Adam Sandler, Jack Nicholson, and Marissa Tomei, with the same title. He plays the part of the anger management therapist that was originally played by Nicholson, except his name on the show is Charlie Goodson, where Nicholson's character was named Buddy Rydell. Estevez Sheen Productions, founded by Martin and Ramon in 2002, now run by Ramon and Charlie, keeping it all in the family, Renee Estevez took part in the making of Anger Management by writing 4 episodes of the show. Brother Emilio served as an executive producer. Again, working through some of his personal issues through his work, his father Martin played the recurring character, Martin Goodson, as Charlie's hypocritical father, and his ex-wife Denise also made guest appearances, making references to her and Charlie's relationship.
I just mentioned to her, I said, how would you feel about coming in and establishing something we could then maybe have you do more episodes in the future, you know, recurring? She was all about it, and then she came in here and did a great job. She was talking about her ex. Remember that?
Lori, I've always said that the measure of a man is in how much he's willing to do for his ex.
Oh, well, Jen's lucky. My ex can be a little difficult. Nuts. A total maniac. A real whack job.
We get it.
So things like that you can incorporate that kind of poke fun at stuff that in life was not so much fun.
Because she brought her kids, and it was like, you know, family affair, go team go, the way it's supposed to be, you know.
Hey, that's crazy, okay? Most people I think who get divorced aren't like, yeah, I'll have my wife on the show, you know? But he makes it work. I mean, he gets divorced, his kids are here, his wife's here, they all seem to get along. Like, I just was blown away.
This is where Charlie's unacceptable and outrageous behavior and decision-making turns from bad to worse. If there was any lower to sink than battering women, Charlie was sure to find it, if even only by association. For this series, Charlie used registered child offender Brian Peck as a dialogue coach. Peck was convicted in 2004 and served 16 months in prison after admitting to 2 counts of abusing a child actor, and was released in 2006. When FX discovered that Peck was frequently on set, they tried to have him fired, but Charlie refused to continue to work without him. It's widely believed that Drake Bell was the young boy that Brian Peck had abused, but it cannot be confirmed due to the identity of children being protected in these matters. It is a safe guesstimate, however, because Peck had worked with Dan Schneider on Nickelodeon's The Amanda Show, on which Drake co-starred during the time the abuse took place, and he was the correct age. Peck had also worked on the Disney series The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, but they were twins and not the right age range. Dan Schneider is also a whole time. You can hear about the whole situation with him in my Amanda Bynes video. The legacy continues, and Drake Bell has since become a child offender himself, after appearing in court and pleading guilty July 2021. People are not always guilty by association, but all of this was especially questionable considering the viewing material Denise Richards had mentioned that Charlie preferred, so I dug deeper. I found there are also close ties between Jeff Ballard, Charlie's longtime publicist and co-executive producer of Anger Management, and photographer Bob Villard, who was known for soliciting candid shirtless photos of his young male clients that he was meant to do headshots and spreads for, that were often taken without their parents' permission and after providing them with alcohol. Brock Pierce, a frequent Villard subject, who as a child appeared in Disney's The Mighty Ducks films, all of which starred Charlie's brother Emilio, was later introduced to Mark Collins-Rector and Chad Shackley by The Usual Suspects director Bryan Singer.
Hello, I'm Bryan Singer, and you're watching Rollywood at www.den.net.
Collins-Rector and Shackley met in a chat room, began dating, and moved in together when Shackley was 15 and Collins-Rector was 31. Together they recruited the then 17-year-old Pierce to form the Digital Entertainment Network, a 1998 precursor to modern streaming platforms. Early investors included Bryan Singer, Dana Giacchetto, Garth Ancier, Gary Goddard, David Geffen, and surprise, former Disney television president David Newman. Running den out of a Los Angeles mansion, Collins Rector and his business partners hosted lavish parties attended by Hollywood's gay A-list. It was at those parties that Collins Rector and others allegedly sexually assaulted teenage boys. 18-year-old Jake Walker claimed that Collins Rector had abused him for 3 years, starting in 1993 when he would have been 13 years old. The suit was quickly silenced and settled for $1 million. This led to the resignation of Mark Collins Rector, Brock Pierce, and Chad Shackley. Alex Burton, a childhood friend of Brock Pierce, who became a den actor, was given the part of Pyro in the first X-Men movie by Bryan Singer. Singer also cast his friend and convicted child offender Brian Peck in the first 2 X-Men films, released in 2000 and 2003. The two are such close pals that the former director's commentary was between Singer and Peck.
My buddy Gary Goddard was the guy walking alongside in the flannel shirt, and the guy eating hot dogs is you.
The fat guy in the Hawaiian shirt eating hot dogs. Hey, that's me. Thank you for... I'm on screen so long. Thank you.
You are. It's in fact, you are so imposing in the screen, people don't even see Stan Lee.
In July 2000, Burton, now 18, Mark Ryan, an adult den employee, and a third plaintiff, Michael Egan, who was 15 years old at the time, filed a suit against Collins Rector, Shackley, and Pierce, alleging rape, assault, and death threats. By August of 2000, a New Jersey federal grand jury had indicted Collins Rector on nearly a dozen criminal charges relating to minors, including transportation across state lines for the purpose of abuse. At this point, the remaining den executives shut down the company and filed for bankruptcy. Collins Rector, Shackley, and Pierce fled to Spain and resided in the small town of Marbella for about 2 years, until Interpol arrested them on May 17, 2002. Guns, machetes, and roughly 8,000 incriminating images containing children were found in the home. Shackley and Pierce were released without being criminally charged, but Collins Rector was detained in a Spanish prison where he fought extradition for about 2 years, before finally being returned to the United States. He pled guilty to 8 charges relating to minors and was registered as a sex offender under weekly supervision. In 2006, a U.S. District Court granted Collins Rector permission to go to the UK in order to see a specialist regarding a brain tumor. He then renounced his U.S. citizenship, and there is no record that he's ever returned to the United States. Shackley moved home to his parents in Michigan, where he runs a small computer repair shop. Pierce was an early investor in Bitcoin, and was named in the February 2018 edition of Forbes magazine as one of the top 20 wealthiest people in crypto. Singer was first accused in 1997 by a 14-year-old extra from his psychological thriller Apt Pupil, released in 1998. The teen alleged that Singer and members of the production team wanted him and other minors to film a nude shower scene that seemed to be more for the use of sexual gratification rather than any artistic or creative merit. At least 4 others came forward, between the ages of 14 and 17, supporting the initial claim, and adding additional claims of sexual misconduct and harassment. What was described was definitely not necessary for the final cut of the scene used in the film, that's for sure. But somehow nothing came of it. 14-year-old Brad Renfro was cast as the lead character, Todd Bowen, opposite Ian McKellen, who played a Nazi fugitive named Kurt, living in Todd's neighborhood. Todd uses this information to control and manipulate Kurt, and seems to have a bit of an evil streak himself, while he's attempting to live vicariously through Kurt's experiences. Brad was arrested in June of 1998 at the age of 15, a few months before the film's official release, for possession of cocaine and marijuana. After Apt Pupil, having no genuine acting experience, Renfro's career slipped into obscurity and near non-existence. Being cast in mostly B movies with violent and mature themes, including incest, bestiality, rape, substance abuse, and erotic scenes involving minors verging on softcore and illegal. He even participated in a film called Tart, released in 2001, which in some ways is an obnoxiously apparent simile to Bryan Singer's and Collins Rector's MO, just on a much smaller scale. Filming likely began before Brad turned 18, cast as William Sellers, who was brought to a lavish party by his notably more wealthy and connected friends. An older man, Kenny, who owns the local gay bar, supplies the teens with narcotics, using them as leverage to try and seduce the teen boys.
Hey, that's okay.
You fucking homo! Hey!
Come, hey! Back here! Stop being so dramatic.
Yeah, dude, you need to chill out.
Oh, come on, man. It's the same old story. He fills us full of coke and he tries to score us a little wasp weenie. I mean, someone should put him back in line.
It wasn't long before Brad succumbed to a life of crime and substance abuse, leaving this world at 25 years of age on January 15th, 2008, in his Los Angeles apartment of an apparent heroin/morphine overdose. Where Bryan Singer went from having hardly any real directorial experience under his belt to directing surefire hits like the X-Men movies and Superman Returns, another one bites the dust, lost in the oblivion beneath the parasitic stage that is Hollywood. Singer has had more than 50 young men come forward and share their story in the wake of the Me Too movement, and has faced several different lawsuits between the late 90s to 2017, all claiming they were either coerced into relations under the influence or outright forced by Singer when they were minors. All these accusations and lawsuits, but due to lack of evidence and having infinitely more powerful attorneys at his disposal, Singer is still yet to face any real consequences of justice. He has now been ousted from Hollywood and was removed from production for Dark Phoenix, but with already having more money than he knows what to do with, Bryan is not suffering by any means. Another close friend of Charlie's, Brett Ratner, whom he had worked with on a movie for Sheen Michaels Entertainment, for Brett's very first directorial debut, Money Talks, starring Chris Tucker and Charlie Sheen, Brett and his wife were also responsible for Brooke and Charlie's initial introduction. Ratner, now known for the Rush Hour film series with Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan, The Family Man starring Nicolas Cage, X-Men The Last Stand, and Horrible Bosses. November of 2017, Brett was accused of sexual misconduct, assault, and harassment by several different parties, including Olivia Munn, Natasha Henstridge, and Elliot Page, causing Warner Bros. To sever all ties with him. Chris Tucker, known for Rush Hour, The Fifth Element, and Jackie Brown, was later revealed during court proceedings to have taken a ride on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet, the Lolita Express, on what was said to be a humanitarian trip to Africa to raise awareness for HIV and AIDS. Jeffrey Epstein himself, Ghislaine Maxwell, Kevin Spacey, and Bill Clinton were also on board for this passage. Tucker had also appeared in Epstein's contact book. I guess it's true what they say, that birds of a feather flock together. July 2nd, 2012, Charlie's former assistant, Rick Calamaro, was found dead in his home. Police discovered numerous pain medications and an open bottle of alcohol at the scene, making it appear to be an accidental overdose. Former friend and business partner of Charlie's, Lenny Dykstra, had revealed that Calamaro was writing a tell-all book and suggested Charlie fire him. Allegedly, after the suspicious death, Lenny asked Charlie what had happened to him. He replied, "I had him fucking iced." On July 16th, 2012, Charlie donated $1 million to the USO, the largest donation ever given to the U.S. troop morale-boosting organization. The funds were applied to the organization's Operation Enduring Care, which supports wounded, ill, and injured troops and their families. In August of 2012, Charlie donated $50,000 to the Cincinnati Reds Community Fund. The fund was started in 2001 to provide baseball and softball programs to underprivileged kids in the community. Charlie and his father Martin are longtime fans of the Reds, and when broadcaster Marty Brenman had his head shaved and raised $50,000 for the fund, Charlie matched it with his donation.
What a weekend it's been at Great American Ballpark. It was the Marty Party on Friday night. $50,000 raised for the Reds Community Fund, and today you've seen Charlie Sheen, a Cincinnati Reds fan, here all weekend. He wanted to do something for the kids, and he is matching the $50,000 that was raised through the fans. What prompted you to do it?
I just felt like it was such a good cause that, and just 50 didn't seem like enough. 100's a much better number, and I thought I should match it and just give something back to the city that's given me so much.
Charlie found himself back in the realm of voice acting with the lead role as Dex Dog Detective in the animated film Food Fight, released in June 2012. The film had a $65 million budget, but was a straight-to-video release and made less than $500,000 worldwide. This complete flop has been referred to as one of the worst movies of all time. Charlie visited wife Denise on set while she was filming for Medea's Witness Protection, also released in June 2012. He ended up appearing in the credits during the blooper reel.
What the hell, Charlie Sheen?
Hey, what a surprise.
How are you?
Yeah,
look who back here. Look who back here hiding. Get Charlie Sheen. I'm a big fan of yours, too.
Do this ever since, I'm sorry.
That's freaking.
Oh,
that's freaking.
sorry.
That's freaking. But go on, rest yourself. Rest yourself. Good to see you.
No motorboat.
He then had the lead role as Charles Swan in the obscure comedy A Glimpse Inside the Mind of Charles Swan III, which first premiered at the Rome Film Festival in November of 2012. This film was written and directed by Francis Ford Coppola's son, Roman Coppola, about Charles Swan, who has been dumped by his girlfriend and has begun suffering from delusional nightmares and visions of past relationships.
Take your hat off, please, and turn sideways. Okay, it looks like about 70% of your brain, this whole region here, is concerned pretty much exclusively with sex. You're using about 20% of what remains on your desire for power and money. This small section here is used to deal with bodily functions and also manage your affairs.
Affairs?
Like balancing your checkbook, mortgage, etc.
Right, I get it.
Charlie was joined by an all-star cast, including Patricia Arquette, Bill Murray, Aubrey Plaza, Dermot Mulroney, and Roman Coppola's cousin, Jason Schwartzman. The film was given a limited release and suffered from mainly negative reviews. In January 2013, Charlie became open about his new relationship with adult film actress and Penthouse magazine model Georgia Jones. The two were reported to have been dating since October 2012.
Tell me about the lady in your life.
Jones, we call her. She's terrific. I was a fan before I met her. You know, she was on the internet. Just girl. And,
she's an adult entertainer.
Yeah. And
you have a thing for that, is it?
I do, yeah. Well, I mean, you can do a lot of research before you meet them. I mean, it's just no joke, right? But I'm a bigger fan since. She's fabulous. You know, she's, I don't want to say the female version of me, but no, we have very similar traits and qualities, and she's a lot younger, and she's hotter than the word itself, and she's fun as hell.
When he started to be out of his other marriage is when I think things started to get better with he and I. There's a respect there. He knows I don't judge him, and he knows that I will be there for him no matter what, and vice versa.
Would there ever be a chance of you guys getting back together?
I am now way too old for Charles.
In June 2013, Charlie wanted co-star Selma Blair fired from anger management. She had allegedly attacked the actor's work ethic, stating he was a menace to work with. The network had allegedly already been planning to slowly write her character off of the show, but Charlie had other plans and wanted the actress removed immediately after their squabble. Appearing in Scary Movie 5, released in April 2013, Charlie and Lindsay Lohan star in the opening scene with a parody of Paranormal Activity, where the two are recording a sex tape. They find there were paranormal forces interfering. His next role was in the action film Machete Kills, released in September 2013, with Danny Trejo as Machete, Michelle Rodriguez as Luz, Sofia Vergara as Madame Desdemona, Amber Heard as Miss San Antonio, and Mel Gibson as Luther Vaz. Joined by Antonio Banderas, Cuba Gooding Jr., Lady Gaga, and Walton Goggins as El Chameleons. Alexa Vega was cast as Killjoy, Desdemona's henchwoman, and Vanessa Hudgens played Desdemona's daughter. Jessica Alba reprised her role as Sartana Rivera in an uncredited cameo appearance. Elon Musk also had a cameo as himself.
Good luck, Machete. Get the bastard.
This was Charlie's breakthrough Spanish role, and he is credited with his birth name. He played the role of Mr. President. This was a very substantial part to be able to take on as his first nod to his heritage.
My fellow Americans, it's been a groovy 4 years, but there is still so much left to accomplish. For me, winning was only the beginning.
Charlie then found himself starring in music videos over the next few years. He made an appearance in the Ariana Grande video for Sexy People, also known as the Fiat song. In 2015, he appeared in the Dimitri Vegas and Like Mike video, The Hum.
Who fucking died?
As well as Lil Pump's video for his 2018 song, Drug Addicts.
Drugs don't think twice. Wow. I do this every day and all night. Ooh, ooh.
In April of 2013, the Department of Family Services removed the then 4-year-old twins from Mueller's care due to her ongoing drug use.
Is he still on the phone?
Okay. Where's the crystal? I'm giving you 1,500.
There were different nannies coming in and out of the home, and the environment was deemed unstable. Brooke was admitted to the UCLA Medical Center for Detox, and from there she would attend a rehab program to assist her with her continued addiction issues. She completed the rehab program, was able to regain custody in 2014. In the meantime, the twins stayed with Charlie's other ex-wife, Denise Richards. Denise eventually had to relinquish custody to Brooke's brother Scott because the twins were having violent outbursts towards her 3 children and torturing the family pets. They then stayed with Scott until they were returned to Brooke's care.
There's a lot of things that the people aren't aware of.
How difficult was it for you to have to give them up?
There's a lot of elements involved that made it very, very difficult. So it wasn't an easy decision.
In a leaked letter written by Denise, she claimed her daughters had been strangled, kicked in the head and stomach, scratched, bit, slapped, punched in the face and head, and spit on by Bob and Max. She also alleges that they threw their own feces at her daughters and around the home. One night, they even broke into their baby sister's room and relieved themselves in her tub, flinging their feces all over the bathroom. Denise also claimed they would repeatedly kick her dogs in the head and squeeze their heads with both hands while watching the dogs whimper in pain. The kids will flip from sweetly petting the dog to strangling the animals and lifting them off the ground by their neck. While doing this, they showed no remorse or any emotion. Due to their state, I can't get their attention to stop them when they're inflicting harm. I have to physically pry their hands away. I could wave my hand in front of their face and they won't flinch. I have repeatedly shared this many, many times to everyone involved in this case. I tell the boys they could kill the dogs by strangling them, but I've gotten many responses from the boys that they want to hurt them and want them to die. Shortly after, they'll tell me how much they love the dogs. The straw that broke the camel's back was when Bob and Max began lashing out at other kids at the school Denise enrolled them in November of 2013. But Denise hadn't given up that easy. She lined up an appointment for an assessment with the twins' pediatrician, to which Brooke intervened and declined permission. This is when Denise relinquished the twins to Brooke's brother and their uncle Scott. There were no reports that Scott had any troubles with Bob and Max, so either the situation is tight-lipped and sealed, or he was able to fulfill the role of the male caregiver and disciplinarian that the boys probably sorely needed. Through the years, it becomes all the more clear that Charlie is a lot more involved in his daughters' lives and with Denise than he is with Brooke and the twins. But overall, he seemed blissfully ignorant to most of the happenings with his ex-wives and his children, and was always preoccupied with finding his next companion. He and Georgia had split, and without skipping a beat, he became engaged to the former adult film actress Scottine Ross, aka Brett Rossi, in February 2014. It's rumored that Charlie had tried to be introduced to Rossi on multiple occasions through mutual friends, due to his interest in her adult video performances. She had declined numerous times, but was offered $10,000 to make a house call to an unnamed client in November of 2013. It was after that encounter she admits she had become enamored with him. The two separated on mutual terms 1 month before the wedding in October of 2014. Scotty and I had a great year together as we traveled the world and crossed a lot of things off our bucket list. Charlie said in a statement that his publicist, Jeff Ballard, provided to People. She's a terrific gal, but we've mutually decided to go our separate ways and not spend the rest of our lives together. He added, I've decided that my children deserve my focus more than a relationship does right now. I still have a tremendous fondness for Scotty, and I wish her all the best. August 18th, 2014, Charlie participated in the Ice Bucket Challenge, but with a twist. Instead of dumping a bucket of ice water over his head, he dumped out a bucket of cold hard cash, $50,000 to be exact, and donated it directly to ALS research. The spark of his good-willed intentions never lasted for long, and on September 25th, 2014, Charlie was at it once again, causing trouble during a dentist appointment, which resulted in a lawsuit. The suit was filed by the dental technician that was tending to Charlie, along with 2 dentists. He allegedly both physically and sexually assaulted the technician, threatened all 3, and tried to stab one of the dentists. Charlie's attorneys appeared in LA County Superior Court to represent him against charges of assault, battery, sexual battery, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. His celebrity attorney, Marty Singer, claimed that Charlie had had a bad reaction to sedation, combined with his medications. The suit was later dropped, but can be assumed to have been settled out of court. Rossi was obviously also struggling following the split from Charlie, and around the time they had intended to be wed, it was reported that she'd been hospitalized for a drug overdose. Meanwhile, Brooke had also had a lawsuit filed against her by former assistant Lior Massafor for unpaid overtime wages, as well as emotional suffering as a result of a hostile and outrageous work environment. The suit claimed that during the 4 months he worked for her, late 2012 to early 2013, Mueller was wasted all of the time and essentially used Massafor as a drug mule and an accomplice to her wretched behavior. He says he was sent to pick up for Brooke regularly, and he would witness her using the substances he returned with, oftentimes in the presence of the twins. He also claims he witnessed her engage in sex acts on multiple occasions, sometimes with multiple people at a time, and also in the presence of the children in some cases. He would then feel morally obligated to stay overnight to look after the boys, and as a result, went without meals or rest. Massafor was a minor as well, age 17, at the time of his employment. The case was dismissed when Massafor's attorney, Mac Nahore, did not show up for the court hearing on August 17th. Nahore claims he was unable to serve Brooke or her lawyer with the relevant documents prior to the hearing, and intends to pursue it further. On November 17th, 2015, Charlie revealed that he had been diagnosed as HIV positive 4 years prior.
I'm here to admit that I am in fact HIV positive.
He estimated that he'd paid roughly $10 million in hush money to keep his diagnosis and the origin details a secret.
4 years you have been trying to keep this secret. Yeah. And you have said that you have been the victim of betrayal and extortion. You told me that a lot of people have actually demanded money to stay silent about this.
That is true. Yeah, and I have paid.
With more than half of it being paid to stop a number of tapes from being leaked, including ones of him having relations with men, transsexual women, as well as a threesome with a man and his ex-wife, Brooke Mueller. Madam Anna Christina said that Charlie used her former New York agency between 2009 and 2010, and often asked her girls if they could hook him up with any transsexuals. Trans adult film star Mia Isabella said she had nothing but kind words for the actor, and was very disappointed in how the public was reacting to the news. Rossi had also given a telling glimpse at his extracurricular activities. He would look at transsexual porn when he was high and ask me which one is hot. Other exes came forward, upset that they had unknowingly been exposed to HIV, but luckily Charlie had been unable to transmit the disease during these encounters thanks to the medications he had been taking, and it was confirmed that neither his exes nor his children were infected.
Charlie is claiming, and again, I haven't heard the interview, that he told everyone in his life who he slept with and stuff that he had HIV. When did you learn that he had HIV?
Right along with everyone else. He never said anything to me. I was his girlfriend. I lived with him.
I heard rumors maybe a little over a year ago about it.
Charlie Sheen's former madam reacts to his HIV revelation.
I'm not surprised if anyone gets it because it can happen to anyone. No one does it on purpose. No one goes out looking for it or wants it. Who knows where he got it, and it's not even that important anymore.
I think the real Russian roulette comes with, not coming forward about conditions you have or having unprotected sex frequently with partners. The reality is we had known each other for many months before we engaged in that, and we were a couple. I was in love with him.
She says Sheen should have told her about his condition.
I look back and I'm like, okay, that would have been some valuable information. I mean, not that you can obviously get it through kissing, but still, that's a big deal. I have sympathy for him because, he's sick and it's awful, but man, he's going to have to take some major accountability with many people in his life. I can't even imagine the girls.
Burt Reynolds, who worked with Charlie's father, Martin, casting him in shows at his dinner theater in Jupiter, Florida, where Martin stayed for a time while he and Janet were separated and he was in the throes of his own alcoholism and addiction, said that Charlie deserved his diagnosis.
His father is a very, very decent man and a dear friend of mine. I feel bad for him. But Charlie, I don't feel bad for him. He's getting what he deserves. If you're going to misbehave like that, then they're going to get you.
You don't have any sympathy for him, then, you say, because of his lifestyle?
Charlie, no.
Yeah.
No, he deserves it. He misbehaved badly. very badly.
On the flip side, ex-lover Ginger Lynn maintained her positive opinion of Charlie and expressed her support and sympathy.
And I'm like, if Charlie has something to say to me, have him say it, or I'll do whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the end of our friendship. But I don't have anything negative to say about him.
Mhm.
You know, he's a good man that just, he's got some demons.
Yeah.
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 We all do. He just got his bigger part of the share.
I have always really felt for celebrities that deal with that, because I can't imagine what it's like to be in a place where, first of all, usually you're surrounded by yes men, people who won't deny you anything,
Right.
people who want something from you, people who will give you, you're used to getting whatever you want.
Oh, yeah. Hindsight now, I mean, where Charlie has gone with his life,
Yeah.
you know, I'm the one that probably would have gotten most damage had I stayed with him anyway.
Yeah.
You know, because I'll say it, I've got my head on my shoulders a little bit more than Charlie does. He just began to go so far down that rabbit hole that he needed new things to get him off. You know, if there was ever a person who, Charlie is the most intelligent. He's like a genius. I mean, he literally is. He's brilliant. I don't know if he would have gone down and still continued on that hole, because I would have left, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, I stopped doing drugs, you know, decades ago. It would have happened to him anyway. He
Right.
just has a huge hole to fill.
Yeah.
And now I don't know what he's filling it with. He's not working, as far as I know. And yeah, no, I feel horrible. I feel so bad for him. It broke my heart when I heard that he was HIV positive.
Right.
His breakdown and spiral into the abyss with drugs and alcohol in 2011 could easily be attributed to receiving this diagnosis. Although between his intravenous drug use and his uncertain sexual orientation, it didn't come as much of a shock to anyone.
You know, what's the craziest, I wasn't shocked. You know, Charlie's a wild boy.
This also started what became referred to as the Charlie Sheen effect, where Google searches for HIV and get HIV tested rose drastically. There was a 95% increase in the over-the-counter at-home HIV testing kits, and Charlie was reportedly humbled to be of service. In December of 2015, shortly after going public with his diagnosis, former fiancé Scottine Ross decided to seek legal action, primarily regarding what she alleged was a forced abortion, but also the fact that he did not disclose his HIV status to her. She claimed the two had discussed having a child together, and that her and Charlie's ex Brooke had become close friends, and that she treated twin sons Bob and Max as her own. Apparently, Charlie was concerned that she'd give birth to a defective child due to her lifestyle. Further details revealed at this time made what was considered her false attempt at suicide a year prior a lot more plausible. In April of 2016, he was further investigated by the LAPD after new claims were submitted. After she filed the initial suit, Charlie made threats against Rossi. Her suit was joined by allegations of assault and battery, emotional distress, false imprisonment, and negligence. Rossi obtained a restraining order against Charlie after a recording was discovered where he had threatened to pay $20,000 to have someone kick her head in. Several other exes of his jumped on the suit looking to seek some type of compensation for the abuse they endured and the exposure. Also in April of 2016, he had made a motion in court to have his child support payments reduced, arguing he should pay less as he has seen a dramatic decrease in his income from when the agreement was made in 2011. In November of 2016, a search was launched for Brooke and the twins in Salt Lake City. She was found on November 16th after walking barefoot into a bar with the twins and a nanny. After a conflict with the nanny, and out of concern for the well-being of the twins, somebody decided to call the police. She was once again taken to a hospital for a mental health evaluation.
After a 4-year film hiatus, he's back in a new movie, Mad Families.
The film is hysterical.
Film is funny.
It's funny as hell.
You know what I love?
Yeah.
It is diverse.
It's very diverse, yeah.
And they all kind of get tied in together.
They get stuck together, yeah.
Mad Families, released in January of 2017, was intended to be Charlie's big comeback movie. Joined by Dennis Quaid, former Scientologist and actress Leah Remini, Efren Ramirez, Naya Rivera, Charlotte McKinney, and Clint Howard. Written by David Spade, who also made a cameo appearance as Charlie's character's interventionist. The film is based around 4 differently cultured families that are booked for the same campsite on a busy holiday weekend, so they must learn how to coexist on their vacation, but what they end up with is basically a race war. but good, clean family fun nonetheless. Sadly, Mad Families was 33-year-old Glee star Naya Rivera's last movie. The situation was somewhat mysterious, but was concluded to be an accidental drowning. Her body was found on July 13th, after she was reported missing about a week prior. When they didn't return the boat at the end of the rental time slot, a search party was formed. Josie was found fast asleep on the boat, but Naya's whereabouts were unknown. Investigators suggested the two were caught up in a riptide, and she used the last of her strength to get the boy back onto the boat before disappearing below the surface. Yeah, sounds a little fishy. I know. In September of 2017, Charlie starred in the movie 9/11 as Jeffrey Cage, based on the book called The Elevator by Patrick Carson. Implying explosives had been used during the 9/11 attacks was not well received and was considered offensive.
Hello?
In November of 2017, Sheen was accused of statutory rape of the then 13-year-old Corey Haim on the set of Lucas in 1986, when Charlie would have been 19. In a 2008 interview with People, Haim said, "I was very, very awake and very ashamed of what was going on. I was just like, coming into Hollywood, man. I was just a horny little kid, like, on drugs, getting fed drugs, man, by vampires. I still blame myself to an extent, but my conscience is much, much more clear. I have come to terms with this a long time ago, but obviously not totally. Stuff happens when you're a kid, and it scars you inside for life." He said the perpetrator was a 42-year-old man that he won't identify. Charlie was 42 years old at the time. Dominic Brascia was the first to attach a name to the accusation, since there was no proof or evidence, and Haim was long since passed and couldn't follow up on the claims himself. The article posted by the Inquirer led to Charlie suing the company, its parent company AMI, Chief Content Officer Dylan Howard, and Dominic Brascia for defamation. Corey's mother Judy Haim appeared on the Dr. Oz show and dismissed the claims, identifying Brascia himself as her son's rapist. The case was settled in 2018.
I would have known if anything was wrong. My kid had nothing. He was like transparent. He never hid anything. He was Corey. It's out of character. That's number one. When my son was 13, he's not going to go and ask Charlie Sheen to go and sleep with him. I have to tell you that this guy is the guy that abused my son.
The sister also spoke in Charlie's defense, which is a lot to unpack, because we can't really be sure if they too were paid hush money, if his family was in denial, hiding something, or if there was true certainty these events could have never taken place. Once again allowing the bad publicity to roll off his back, Charlie launched his own cannabis vape brand called Sheenius, which he launched on April 20th, 2018, otherwise known as 420. Seems it ended up going under, with Sheenius.com being a Parks domain now, but it was a good effort. In July 2018, Charlie showed interest in forming a truce with Chuck Lorre. "I kind of poisoned the waters, and I take responsibility for all of that. You know, I was really stupid and juvenile, and he's one of the best and the brightest that this industry has ever had the pleasure of witnessing." In August of 2018, Denise Richards announced she would be joining the reality series, The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, for Season 9, which premiered on February 12, 2019. On September 8, 2018, Denise remarried, after dating new husband Aaron Pfeifers for about a year. They wed in Malibu, California, and in May 2019, it was announced that Pfeifers would be adopting her young adopted daughter, Eloise. In October of 2018, Charlie embarked on the An Evening with Charlie Sheen tour. Also released in 2018 was Brothers in Arms, a documentary about the making of Platoon, produced by Sheen Estevez Productions. In November of 2018, the suit that Brett Rossi and others had filed against Charlie was dropped. February 2019, Charlie appeared on the cover of Maxim with an Ultra Tune model, an Australian company he did a commercial for. In August of 2019, a video of Brooke Mueller surfaced online, where she appeared to be smoking crystal meth once again.
Because how am I going to wake up tomorrow and who's going to drive? That's why it had to be you guys. That's why I thought you guys were doing it. I'm not going to be able to wake up with... This is what you don't get. I'm not going to be able to get on the plane. What are you doing right now?
As well as an audio recording in which she was looking to buy cocaine, meth, and heroin.
do an eyes wide shut type party. So the Hamptons, there's the party here. It's an after hours actually, but it was really cool. It's sex, like, but you don't have to have sex, just naked people walking around. It's really cool. I ran from it last time. I wasn't expecting it, but this time I watched it. I didn't know what happened, but in it, it's really different. Yeah, it happened. We're hitting one tonight in Queens. A friend. He's not even my boyfriend. He's married. I know I feel evil, but I can't help it. Where is she? We don't even hook up, but it's kind of fun. Now we're almost at Queens. You can build on them when the cops. You know what I mean? Because that's what I say. Actually, what we want is, if it's possible, to put an order. That's all I answer. And if it's even possible, it has to be the car, black car. That's not for me. Yeah. Well, whatever it is, we're going to get it. And then I'll just Venmo you just for doing this a couple, like, what, $200? Is that cool? If it works out, sure, of course. Oh, yeah, I did that. I was sober for that. I was on and off. Everyone does. Almost everyone. There's the few that stay sober, but not at my level.
Throughout all of these encounters, Brooke had been leaving Bob and Max with seedy strangers and alone in hotel rooms, while she was out putting herself in risky situations trying to score. In one instance, she had her purse containing her cash, credit cards, and identification stolen. While staying at the Wingate Hotel in Spokane, Washington, she left noticeably intoxicated well after midnight, and the staff decided to do a wellness check on the twins just after 1:15 a.m. As they had suspected, the kids had been left unaccompanied, but to their surprise, there were pharmaceuticals left out, among other items that shouldn't have been within their reach. Shortly after, the staff notified the local authorities. Brooke voluntarily entered rehab for the approximately 20th time, and the then 10-year-old twins went into the care of Mueller's parents. Since then, their living situation and overall status and well-being is unknown. Following the end of their stay with Denise, Charlie had wanted to have the boys tested for fetal alcohol syndrome, but Brooke vehemently denied this request. Perhaps as they've gotten older, their developmental and behavioral issues have become a lot more apparent, and hopefully they're getting whatever help they may need. Same goes for Brooke, with getting the help she sorely needed. Mid-2019, Denise reported that Charlie owed her nearly $500,000 in unpaid child support. In October of 2019, the musician Tim Montana uploaded the music video Mostly Stoned to YouTube. This video was directed by Charlie.
You're directing his music video.
I am indeed.
Now, how did you
Yes.
guys get connected? And tell me all about this music video that you're doing.
Well, I don't want to reveal too much.
Yeah, but that's what I want you to do.
I understand, but it's much more powerful to show people than to just try to explain it, you know.
Tim Montana later bought Charlie's famous tour bus that he had to fight to get back from the Warner Brothers production lot, to which he referred to as Operation Greyhound.
Let me try something. It's a tough one. We cannot discuss Operation Greyhound, so anything after this point in time cannot be documented. We are absolutely, completely top secret.
Denise returned for season 10 of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, but announced that it would be her last, likely due to the drama that unfolded, that she knew was soon to air. Charlie joined Cameo, which is a platform for public figures to sell personalized messages for fans. The request option was closed after he and other famous actors were used to create propaganda, which resulted in the release of a Russian intelligence agent, Maxim Shigali. They were paid to unknowingly endorse his release through the app. Dolph Lundgren and Danny Trejo were also victims of this dishonest representation of their Cameo clips, where these actors were told what to say, or given a rough idea of what to say, by customers. Although filmed in the 80s, Grizzly 2: Revenge was finally released at the 2020 Hollywood Real Independent Film Festival. This was filmed in Hungary in 1983 as a sequel to the 1976 film of the same name. Apparently, a work print of the film was leaked before the final release, and the producer, Suzanne Nagy, went full-on attack mode between 2007 and 2015. attacking not only those responsible for the leak, but innocent people doing reviews and other commentary, who were fans of the original film from 1976. She threatened legal action and other harsh ramifications, and otherwise alienated the fandom before the second film was completed. Charlie played alongside George Clooney, Laura Dern, and John Rhys Davies. The movie was made available through video on demand as of January 2021. In March of 2020, Corey Feldman reiterated the claims that Charlie had technically abused Corey Haim in his documentary, My Truth, Rape of Two Coreys. Feldman's allegations were supported by his ex-wife, Susie Feldman, and Lost Boys co-star, Jamison Newlander, among other mutual friends he and Haim shared. It's been stated that during the filming of Lucas, Haim had been tricked into engaging in a painful session of sex by a man on the movie set. The man told Haim that sex between men and boys was normal in Hollywood, saying that all the guys in the entertainment world do it. Feldman recalls a time when they had first started hanging out, where Haim had suggested the two of them fool around.
So, dads are in the other room, we're in the bedroom, we're having this conversation, he starts talking to me about sexual stuff. He starts getting changed out of his bathing suit, and he starts, like, masturbating himself. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, let's mess around, man. I'm like, what? He's like, let's mess around. I said, with who? He's like, you and me. And I'm like, dude, I'm not gay. And he's like, I'm not gay either. And I'm like, well, you must be if you want to mess around with me, because I'm a dude. And he's like, no, it's normal. And I'm like, what do you mean it's normal? And he says, hey man, this is what all boys do. It's called the boys club, and we all do this. And I said, who told you that? And that's what he told me.
There were and are still so many predators within the industry that all tend to gravitate to one another and surround these celebrity kids and teens. Charlie wasn't Haim's only abuser, but it seems pretty clear he was the first.
Dominic was one of the ones.
Right.
So, first, let's say Dominic. Let's start with Dominic.
No, but hold on. Okay, so it's a molester, but we're not... Haim was, more than likely, this is a consensual thing with Dominic.
It was consensual, but he was still a child.
Right, and Dominic is like 35.
Right.
What is the most powerful way to do that? To take away the power of the people that are hurting these children? And it's to speak up. So then tell me who raped Corey Haim.
Oh wow, raped as a little boy, and he told me that it was his co-star, and he told me that it was Charlie Sheen that did it.
And he mentioned that on the movie he had worked on, and then I said, well, who is it? And then he says, Charlie who? And it's Charlie Sheen.
No, I hadn't heard it in context of rape. I had heard it in that he had said to Haim, this is what men do.
Shit, I've personally heard a story about Charlie and Corey Haim, probably, I don't know, at least a dozen people probably in my inner circle knew, for sure. It was pretty much common knowledge. I mean, everybody, it was kind of unspoken. Dominic always talked about it because he was obsessed with it. But everybody seemed to be under the impression that Charlie Sheen was diddling him on the set of Lucas.
Haim told me that he had been molested on the set of Lucas. And he said it was Charlie Sheen.
This wasn't like a one-time thing he said in passing. It wasn't like, oh, by the way, this happened.
Charlie's own experience growing up within the industry likely wasn't much different, being propositioned by older men and women, being given access to various substances, alcohol, and the freedom to pursue mischief in general. He likely refuses to acknowledge that the concept of the boys' club was and is a predator's game, and that what he did with Haim was technically abuse, because he would then need to reevaluate whatever abuse he endured under the sickeningly playful guise of the boys' club as a kid. There can be a lot of darkness hidden behind closed doors where happy little wreaths are hung. The allegations of rape came after a period of time that Haim had to reflect on these types of incidents that he endured, and how in the moment he may have accepted it as part of the boys' club exchanges, but as an adult it would have become clearer that this was part of a vicious cycle of abuse. Where Sheen was able to continue to excel at his career unscathed, burying any of his guilt and or shame in his participation in a separate cycle with women and drugs, Haim's career had long since come to an end, and he quickly fell into darkness and despair. Haim suffered from what was deemed an accidental overdose, along with other health complications as a result, on March 10, 2010, at the age of 38. Regardless of the exact details of the situation, Haim's passing in 2010 likely contributed to things rapidly deteriorating for Charlie going into 2011.
Yeah, I am on a drug. It's called Charlie Sheen.
And possibly led to the very behavior that put him at risk of contracting HIV. Mid-2020, Real Housewives cast member Brandi Glanville began sharing details of an alleged affair between her and Denise Richards, beginning in September of 2018.
Denise and I went out and we had dinner.
I'm so glad that Alec introduced us. Brandi and I have a mutual friend. That's how the two of us met. We went to dinner one night, hit it off.
We completely click. We get absolutely wasted. So we go to the restroom and all of a sudden we're making out.
But she wasn't with like Aaron at that time, so.
I was not expecting it, but I was like, all right, I'll go with it. I'm wasted, you're pretty, let's do this.
Brandi claimed that Richards aggressively pursued her after meeting at Cafe Habana in Malibu. The meeting was set up by Brandi's agent so that she could give Denise advice about her joining the Real Housewives cast.
Denise, I'm not going to torture you any longer. She said you two had sex. Okay?
What?
Sorry. I didn't think it was my place to say it. Did you have sex with her? No. No. This is like, I'm floored by this information.
So have a moment and say something.
Please do not air this. Please. That is not true. It is not true.
Honey, you gotta straighten this out with Brandi. You
It's
gotta,
the least
you gotta,
of my worries
I know it
dealing
is.
with what I'm dealing with.
I'm
It's
sure.
like-
By the way, whatever the story is between you and Brandi, we
no
don't care.
story.
Yeah. Okay, but and that's your side, that's her side, like whatever. I don't care.
I'm a very married woman, and I love my husband.
Though Denise denies the allegations, fans of Real Housewives noted some hints and clues in the show that were consistent with Brandi's story. Brandi later shared personal messages between her and Denise that further supported her claims.
When I had spoken to her, she knew every single thing that was going on in the group. When? Recently, when you spoke Recently. to her? How recently? Before your party, Kyle.
The problem is, the night before, she said she never talked to Brandi.
I've hardly talked to her. I have not spent much time with her. I don't talk to her much.
You
I
didn't
talk
talk to her
leading up to the party? No.
So which one is it, Denise? You barely know Brandi, or you know her and you've heard that somebody else is feeding her with all this information?
On October 14th, 2020, 2.5 men's Conchata Ferro passed away in hospital following a cardiac arrest on October 12th. Tributes poured in from her former castmates and other co-stars, including Charlie, who tweeted, "Absolute sweetheart, a consummate pro, a genuine friend, a shocking and painful loss. Berta, your housekeeping was a tad suspect, but your people-keeping was perfect." Starting December 1st, 2020, Charlie served 30 days for his domestic violence case from back in December of 2009 with ex-wife Brooke. As of right now, Charlie claims to have remained sober for over 3 years.
AA is not the best place for a famous atheist. I kept looking for that fucking chapter. So yeah, but it's not a one size fits all.
Sure.
You know, it's like saying that we all think the same, like our brains are built the same. They're just not.
Right.
You know, I had the meltdown, the nervous breakdown, front and center on the world stage. You know, I've done it for 3 years, you know, but it wasn't, I didn't hijack a blimp and wind up on the news. But it was December 10th, and I'd forgotten that it was a Sunday, and my daughter Sam needed to go to this appointment up in Thousand Oaks, and I was in Van Nuys, and I had to leave in an hour, and I'd already started drinking. You know, I'm a morning drinker, and that's the best time. And I remember on the drive home with Tony driving and her in the back, and I thought, okay, this can't happen again. And I couldn't be available for something that she needed. And it really hit me in a way that was like, okay, we can do this. Yeah, there are moments that I hang on to that if I decide, all right, it's been a few years, you know, that maybe it wasn't that bad, and these are now brought up, like a Viewmaster. Remember those?
Yep.
Yeah,
of course.
And one just slides up, and it's like, it creates what I call the shame shivers.
Yeah.
But sometimes a shame shiver can be an asset.
He was most recently dating the twins' 28-year-old nanny, Julia Stambler. It's unclear if the two are still seeing each other, but Charlie is proud of where he is now that he is stable, reliable, and consistent. His biggest regret is trading an early retirement for a fucking hashtag. After selling his infamous Mulholland estate to pay off his debts, and briefly living with his parents, he found himself a small apartment in Malibu to call home. In February of 2021, he reflected on the 10th year anniversary of his very public breakdown. Having grown since, he said, "There were 55 different ways for me to handle that situation, and I chose number 56. I think the growth for me post-meltdown, it has to start with absolute ownership of my role in all of it, and it was desperately juvenile. I think it was the drugs, or the residual effects of the drugs, and it was also an ocean of stress and a volcano of disdain. It was all self-generated. In hindsight, Charlie wishes more people would have seen his behavior as a cry for help. They showed up in droves, with banners and songs, all types of fanfare in celebration of, you know, what I think was a very public display of a mental health moment." Now reaching her late teens, oldest daughter Sammy had become unhappy living with her mother Denise, and decided to move in with her father Charlie, who has a much more relaxed approach to parenting. In September of 2021, she posted this video to TikTok. Us Weekly reported that Denise is saddened by the situation. An insider said, "Denise has set normal rules that any parent would be setting. She's a mom and a parent, and there are rules. She didn't want to follow the rules. Charlie didn't support implementing Denise's rules. He has a different way of parenting, and Sammy decided to live with her dad. Denise loves her daughter very much." Charlie's publicist, Jeff Ballard, mentioned to media sources that Sam was doing amazing, and that Charlie says, "I love her and all my children unconditionally. We're having a ball. GED, here we come." Segments from Real Housewives do reveal how strict Denise can be as a parent.
Sammy,
What?
when is homecoming?
I haven't gotten asked yet, if that's what you're wondering.
You know what you're gonna tell a boy if he asks you?
I'm gonna say yes.
No, you're not.
Mom, it's a big deal getting asked to homecoming.
And you can't date until you're 16 years old.
You guys are so freaking strict.
I know.
Now I want a boyfriend because you told me I can't have one.
All right, well, let's see what Dad says.
Should I call him?
Yeah.
Hey, you there?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, what's going on?
If a guy asks me to go to the homecoming dance with him, am I allowed to say yes?
I'll trust your judgment if you think it's the right person to go with.
Thank you. Okay, love you.
I love you too, sweetie.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, well, whatever.
No. You're mad.
I'm not mad.
Yeah, I proved you wrong.
I disagree.
Okay.
Last year, Sammy went to her first homecoming dance with a group of friends, which was a big deal for me to wrap my head around.
You guys look so pretty.
Thank you.
Are you excited?
I'm just scared.
Because it's your first,
with a guy.
date-ish?
Yeah.
We're not gonna call it a date, though.
And this year, she has a date with a boy that she likes very much. So it's a little different, too.
Oh, I like that one.
No.
The one
Maybe if
with-
you're 17 or 18.
No, I read the reviews.
Yeah, I'm on yours.
You read the
Mom,
reviews.
stop. I read the reviews and it's...
There's still no real updates about Brooke's whereabouts or well-being. The same goes for Bob and Max, who would now be 12 at the time of uploading this video. In a recent interview with The Blast, Charlie said, "Between myself and the boys' two amazing sets of grandparents, we continue to seamlessly love, shelter, and protect Bob and Max from the haphazard choices and unsightly behavior their mom refuses to extinguish once and for all. There's no telling what the future may hold for any of his kids, But for the moment, even though he's now swimming in debt after squandering millions and has been practically ousted from Hollywood, Charlie seems to have found a happy balance and is finally focusing more on improving his own mental health and well-being and spending more time with his kids. If that means he ends up dating their nannies, and likely soon his daughter's friends, well, I don't know if that's any better than being absent, but I guess we just have to wait and see how Act 3, as he's chosen to call it, turns out.
Download royalty-free beats at freebeats.io.